what you had seen during that time and what that was actually like for, in this case, in your case, for yourself, and what you have seen everyone else reacting to that situation. Because I find these stories fascinating, and I also find it that because of us, there's such a major hurdle to overcome, and you see the final product, it's like it's a work of art, in my opinion, that you see how well everything was put together despite those major hurdles that were presented during the production. So I was hoping that you can share some insight about that particular moment in time during that shoot.
Yeah, that was one of the major hurdles, just because you're, someone you respect, or it's a huge part of the film. Just on the personal level, you're like, damn, you know what I mean? You realize that the most important thing is our well-being as humans,
Right.
let alone trying to finish production. But this is our second round, I believe, going in, because the original principal photography happened, I'd say, a year before. Like Daylight's End was shot within a year, because as soon as we had to do pickups, but everyone's schedule was conflicting for the whole year. So we had 30 days. We got I'd say 80% of the movie done. Then we went back, I'd say maybe it was like eight to 9 months later. We're back in Texas. We're in Tyler, Texas this time, instead of downtown Dallas, for the nest where Lewis fainted. And it's hot. It's no AC. We're in abandoned buildings. And I remember one of the takes, we're up and down the steps, up and down the steps, up and down the steps, and then he just like leans on me and grabs. He's like, "Oh, shoot," and then something's happened. I wasn't sure the magnitude of it. I thought maybe he had a cramp or something.
Right.
But it being a little bit more severe, he didn't want to make a big scene out of us and scare us, probably. So all of a sudden, we just found out he's being taken to the hospital, and we're like, "Dang!" So what's weird about that is, whatever was happening, I don't know how TMZ got my cell phone number at all. This is random.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
This is like later that evening. We wrapped. It started raining too. I remember, like, we get back at the hotel, and I'm we're still in Tyler, Texas, and we're worried about Lewis. What's going on? He's texting. He's had like some type, I don't know if it was a heart attack or not a heart attack, but it was major dehydration. I actually don't know the final diagnosis, but it shut us down because we couldn't shoot. We shot stuff without him, but he was in all that whole,
all the major scenes.
Yeah, and so they had to shoot around things. But yeah, TMZ calling, going, "Yeah, we heard Louis Mandalore's in the hospital." I was like, "What? Who's this? Like, who's this?" Like, it was random. It was some girl from TMZ, and I was like, why are you calling me? Like, you know what I mean? We had no press on this. I was like, well, how'd you get my number? That's what I was fascinated about. I was like, you guys got my cell phone number? I mean, it's a true story. I'm like,
really?
What the heck? Yeah.
What year was this again when this happened?
2013 or
really?
14 when when Lewis collapsed.
Okay.
So, and then shut down. I don't know if it was, I think it was like a month. We actually all left Texas that don't live there. I flew back to LA. Lewis, I think Lewis is all over the globe. I don't know where he's at. We had to fly to. Hakeem was everywhere too. And then we finally came back, I'd say a month or two later. And then we finished the movie in Mineral Wells, Texas. Principal photography, and then it went to post, and the rest is history. I mean, it was pretty quick after that. So
for a span of like 2 year-ish, you guys were working on the film on and off.
Principal photography was about a year on, but it was like just small chunks. It was like 30 days, almost had all of it. Things happened with the location and scheduling. And then we went back, and that was the thing. It was like, I thought we were going back a month later. It wasn't. Then the holidays came, shut it down. We're like, okay, maybe after the holidays. And everyone's like, oh, I got to shoot this. I got to shoot this. I got to shoot this. So it's to get all of us available. That was the key thing with Will Kaufman. And, that's what makes Will so amazing is, in the budget, I don't know if you knew what you think the budget is. I remember watching your post about it. Yeah, I'd say it's a quarter of what you probably think it is too. Because I mean, people go, oh, it's great for $2 million. We're like, oh, wish we had $2 million. Like, what Will can do a budget for and make look amazing, that he's a very rare breed of a director. There was not $2 million at all. Let's say it's quarter of that, to be more accurate of what that budget was. Yeah. and you're talking huge production. You're talking shutting down streets. You're talking police force. I mean, it looked like, I've been on some big sets, some
Right.
big TV sets too, and it looked like that.
Yeah,
But
because
Will,
there's, for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, there's some really big set pieces in that film, which, you know, as because I, again, you mentioned before about the $2 million budget that I assumed that it had.
yeah,
Yeah. So here's what I wanted to ask you about too, because, and I don't mean this to ask in a negative light, but were you looking at the situation like, God, dude, is this even worth it, going through all this trouble? Because there are so many setbacks with this production, and then having to leave, not come back up, you know, as we expected it, and then having to wait for a long time before everything gets finalized. Was there at any point a concern for you, or at least a thought you thought, it's just not worth it right now?
not for me, because I wasn't on the producer end. I mean, Will and Chad, and was one of the producers on it, and the team that they had making this film didn't really panic. I mean, it's what they do. And they knew they had our cooperation. We were all good buddies before this. I mean, I didn't know Lewis before, but I knew Hakeem really well. And I remember, so we all communicated, and we're like, yeah, when we get there, that's what made it a very fun shoot, because most of us knew each other, were familiar with each other.
Mhm.
And so I don't think I stressed, and I'm sure they had their stresses because, but like I said, in Will Kaufman, Chad Law, we all trusted in, and they don't fail. Though that's just what it is at the end of the day.
Right. Okay. So, and another thing too that I also, which I want to delve into in a little bit, but you know, you've worked with some. I know that you've worked with Lewis after the fact, because you just mentioned that this is the first time you had worked with him, but beforehand, you actually had a working relationship with Chelsea, because you had. I think I came across a short little movie that you guys had done together called. I wrote it down here, Blowin Smoke. So
Oh,
that was shot back in, I think it was in the 2014. So I'm not sure if this was shot around the same time you guys were doing Daylight Sin, or was it shortly before that?
I think it
When
was
you guys
after we
Oh, okay.
Chelsea was back in LA. She was doing some I don't even know what that was for. I think it was just something for a reel or build it up, some experiment thing. And she called me. She's like, "Hey, you want to come out and shoot?" So I didn't even know. I just showed up, and we're like, I had a little script to work with, just kind of wing it on the day, pretty much.
Mm.
So yeah, she was a buddy of mine. So just kind of come out and do a favor. What that
Okay.
was.
Well, so because I assume that because the movie that was sort of that was shot, you know, prior to the Daylight Sin's release, that you guys had a like working relationship prior to that. So did you guys meet on the set and then work together after the fact, or would you guys already have a
Yeah, I knew
friendship
I
prior
knew
to that?
Chelsea. I knew Chelsea before, just through mutual friends.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I knew her pretty well. It was like that's why it was fun to actually work with her. That was the first time I worked with her, was actually on Daylight's End.
Oh, okay.
We almost did a movie together in Texas randomly. I think she did the movie. I don't want to name the title because I was hired as a lead, and as soon as I got there, I looked what was going on, and I quit. And it sounds unprofessional to me, but man, it was unprofessionally done. Like everything that the producers, I threw them a bone. I even introduced them to Will Kaufman, because Will Kaufman was throwing these people a bone, and I'm on set with Will, and Will's like, "You shouldn't be doing this movie." I remember sitting in Throttle Films, and they have a big screening room there, and he comes to me and goes, "You should be doing this movie, man." And I was like, "Yeah," because he saw how unprofessional. I was there before the directors. He was there before the directors and the producers. They had nothing set. They're kind of just winging this, like, okay, and nothing was as promised. So I ended up backing out of the movie, but I got Chelsea involved, unfortunately, because I thought, you try to throw people bones, and it just, I ended up not doing the film. So, but I think I knew Chelsea for a few years before that.
So she ended up doing the movie that you ended up
She
walking
did the
away from.
movie, and another buddy I knew did the movie. I just ended up bailing, and I was the main dude, like the main protagonist. I ended up quitting like the day of production. It was supposed to be a quick, like 5, 6 day shoot. And then I was like, it all made no sense. I was like, you guys can just filter these lines. It's completely unnecessary. I should have never even showed up. But I was trying to do a favor from a longtime acquaintance for another one. And
Mhm.
as soon as I got there, nothing was ready. I mean, nothing. And I'm like, hey, they want to be a dick. I was like, look, I can't do this. That's just you guys. And they understood. They were like, yeah, we're sorry. But they
Oh,
still went
okay.
along with it anyway. Like some people want to make films because they think it's cool and trendy, and then there's people like that's what they do. They love it. There's no glam in filmmaking, really.
Yeah.
There's not. Like, it's hard work, it's a grueling,
It can also be
um
kind of boring too at times.
yeah, if you come visit me on set one day, you'll be like, yeah, me and you'll be sitting in craft services. Like, if I shoot this movie and I don't know where you're in the East Coast,
Yeah, I'm in
I
North
think I
Carolina right
might.
now.
I wrote a film called The Hype that might be filming in February and March of next year. I'll fly you out to set in Oklahoma. Just come and sit and watch this epic. It's gonna be a big production. You'll see. I mean, that'll be fun, but in between, it's like, I mean, I just sit around and drink coffee.
So
Yeah.
yeah, having worked on several films and having worked on many productions that have been very problematic, my one of the questions I always want to ask actors is, at any point did you ever feel like you just want to quit? This is way too much. It's way too grinding. It seems like you're leading into a path that may be promising, and then eventually it just never panned out the way that you expected it, or the promises that were made to you were never kept. And I'm sure that's a consistent thing that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. But at any point, do you ever feel like this is not the path that I want to take because it's not worth it?
For when I'm on a particular project, or
Or
just
just in
overall?
general, I know that I've heard plenty of stories where people are presented an opportunity, and then when they get there, it didn't really turn out the way they anticipated, and they question themselves about whether or not this is even worth it.
Um, which is true on the fact, yeah, we don't know how it's going to come out. We hope for the best, but I don't think I've found myself ever thinking, is it worth it? Because it's sure, we all want an amazing result, like, not just for like myself, but for everyone involved, man. They all work their butts off from top to bottom, inside and out, on a movie. But I honestly, I just want more. I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the process of developing a character
Right,
and the
right.
camaraderie on set. That is why I do what I do. I'm itching for more. That's why I'm the one. I mean, a lot of actors bond, but if you ask like Lewis or whatever, out of everyone on set of Daylight Sin, I'm the one that's still, I connect. I'm friends with every single person. Like, I'm still like, I'm the one that's like, oh, I'm connected to everybody. I love the camaraderie of every film set. So with that alone is enough to sustain whatever negatives, whatever hard process. Um, I'm just itching for more. I got tons lined up. I'm just like, yeah. I mean, some people bail out. They're like, oh, I don't know, but me, I feel like I'm just getting started. So
So I know that you wanted to be an actor for quite some time, but I, once you started seeing how things started unravel with how production's being handled, and you go through that experience, but when it comes to the business aspect of the acting game, the film industry,
mm,
that's a whole different ball game. When I think people really get the wake up call, because that's really where it matters the most. You can the art of acting, the art of filmmaking is one thing, but if it's not going to sell, no one's really going to care. Or
exactly.
if it is going to sell, but it doesn't reach that potential that they were hoping for, then it always seems like you had a good product, but unfortunately it wasn't successful. Therefore, you are no longer in that same category where you are going to be considered for something else moving forward. It's like there's politics behind it as well too. The indie game is
Yeah.
one of the things where I think it's more or less kind of the same process, I would imagine, but I take it that some actors are who are completely unaware that walk into that not knowing what it's like, and then they have that rude awakening of what it really is like in the business. And I know that you've kind of shared some things that it can be really, in some cases, be perceived as rather dark, but having seen what you've seen and experiencing what you've experienced, did that ever taint your perception about how this is how you perceive the film industry, and then how you've actually seen it, how it really it is, and then reconsider your motivation at that point about continuing on with this with your passion, if you will?
It's a good question. I've never been asked that. I can tell you do your research. It's funny. If there is something that's pushed me away, it is the business aspect. And I'll get into, brief of it is, like that whole Me Too campaign. I've
Mhm,
mentioned it before.
mhm.
It didn't just affect women. It affected men. I'm a big product of that, where you don't want to play ball, all of a sudden you're ignored. All of a sudden you're not going to this agency. So it makes me look at, I'm not, I don't, it makes me question, like, what some people have done to get into a particular shoes. Maybe they didn't have the same experience as me. Maybe they didn't. I've heard of multiple accounts from a lot of my actor friends. They'll tell me the same thing. I'm like, yeah. So that aspect is what's made me kind of go stay with my inner circle. You know, I don't, I mean, I have an agent, I have this, you know, certain things, but I really am self-creating my content. I have so much developing where I will deal with studios, but no one's going to be messing with me. You know what I mean? No one's going to, that's the position I'm putting myself in because of some sleazeballs. I mean, I'm telling you, there's many of them. I dealt with them from my first or second audition back when I was like 20 years old to now. I mean, that aspect of it, the dark inside Hollywood stuff. And I didn't play ball. I don't care if you're whatever it was. I was like, no, you don't want to hire me for me. You want this. No, sorry. Like to each his own if you do it.
Well,
But
let me ask you about this, because I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm actually curious because you brought something up that really, I'm curious where that comes from, because you mentioned before about, you didn't play ball, and some people have, and probably will never talk about that. And I get that.
Yeah.
But where did that come for you about saying, to have the audacity to say, you know what, I'm not playing that. So it's either you take me for what my skills are, or you don't. Like, where did that come from for you when you went through that, when you first experienced it?
Yeah. I was aware of it before. I mean, you hear rumors, you hear whatever. And I'm not saying it's like that for everybody. Like there's some people that might not have, they just had an in somewhere and it was smooth sailing. You know what I mean? I hear stories like that too. But for me, I mean, my first agent was put me in subjective situations by him, just him alone, let alone the people he introduced me to. So partly is because of him, you know, my first agent, which I ended up firing. And I'm a guy that catered to him. I gave him more percentage just because I was trying to invest in him and his agency. You know what I mean? I'm a giver. So, and then everything started backfiring with me and him because I wasn't playing. He was mad that I had a girlfriend, and I was like, I'd never played. I'm like, to each his own what you want to do. You know, I don't judge anybody as long as you're not hurting anyone. But like, wasn't into him. It's not my thing. So he started. Yeah, he'd always. I mean, there was a lot of things he put me in. A lot of casting sessions. A lot of where it was a general meet and greet, and that would turn into a very unprofessional. They didn't give a shit about me as an actor. They were just trying to see what I was going to do. You know what I mean? And that I had many sit downs like that. Where I'm talking some prominent casting directors too, that were supposedly married too. I'm like, what's going on here? And of course, I didn't play ball. And again, all of a sudden, I'm not getting the auditions. I'm not getting called in. Not saying that's for everybody, because I've had many easygoing auditions where the ones I booked, no problem. And there's a lot of great. I think I was subjected to, you know, it could be just a small handful, but I dealt with a lot. I dealt with them. And I've heard the same thing about some other people talk about the Weinstein. I never dealt with Weinstein, because he was into the females, but I dealt with some others. To not name names and stuff like that, but there's projects that were big studio ones that I'm at dinner, didn't play ball with the director. Next day, I'm not doing the film. You know what I mean? That's happened early in my career.
So when you turned it down with the request, did that also affect you in with the next audition? So was your agent at that time saying, hey, play ball, and then you say no, okay, fine, we'll go somewhere else? Was it an easy thing to move into the next audition, or was it a lot more harder as a result of that?
For me, no. I mean, as a personally, it didn't affect me because I'm hard to phase. I expect people to be whatever. I'm not like, oh my God, this is ruining my life. Like some people say ruins your life or career. Then I think you're a weak person that way. But it made me not like my agent. It made me, because he kept, when I talked to him about it, he's just like, well, you know, sometimes people have to play that route. He basically condoned the people's behavior.
Yeah, he defended it, right?
Yeah. So, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing that ball. But honestly never affected me. Like it never was like, I just stay focused, because to me, my job as the actor is to make the black and white colorful. I focus on the role. if they have any innuendos, I don't let that phase what I'm trying to do. I'll just keep moving on because there's millions of people I can collaborate with. As I found them along the way, and I'll find more and more. Lewis is one of them. Me and Lewis,
Mhm.
we've joked about a lot of this all the time. So it is what it is, man.
Right.
And we just keep coming. But yeah, there's a lot of shady people in every industry. It's not just
No,
the film
yeah, I understand that too. Well, so I've there was a story that I remember you sharing with regards to actually you actually just touched upon it now that I think about it, where you, because of that experience, you try to keep things tight to close knit. You work with
Yep.
a specific set of people. And that's one of the things that I remember you when you mentioned that. I remember I forgot who it was. Oh, I remember who it was. Shawn Wayans of the Wayans family. And he said something really distinct about who he lets in his circle, if you will. And I just assumed at that time when I heard that interview that he's like, no, I don't play that game. I don't talk to new people. I don't do, I keep my distance. I always stay close with my real friends, my real, my family, and I keep that circle really, really tight. And I never really understood what that meant. But it dawned on me that when I heard you say that, and you mentioned about now I keep an inner circle, like I forgot how many days or weeks it was later that I was looking at something and I came across the Wayans brothers, and I was like, oh shit, I remember that interview that Shawn had. And I'm wondering if, I'm not saying that he went through that, but I'm wondering, knowing him being in the industry for a while now, if that had a major influence on him trying to keep things tight knit and not including other people, freely in that circle.
Oh yeah, I'm confident that he's dealt with what I've dealt with times 10. He's done. He's Shawn Wayans is an amazing actor.
Right.
He's done so many damn. I mean, the guy could do comedy and drama just as good as anybody. You watch Working with a Dream and then watch
Oh,
Senseless.
that's
The guys
Marlon.
were.
That's Marlon Wayans, his brother.
Oh yeah, Marlon Wayans. Yeah, oh, you're right. You're right. But Shawn's great too. All the Wayans brothers,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
just a phenomenal family. But yeah, I'm sure they all keep that small circle though. I mean,
Yeah.
you almost have to because I bumped into a guy that I come up with, last year. I didn't see him for like 9 years or whatever. His name's Scoop McNairy. He does a lot of amazing work.
Oh, I know who he is.
Um,
Yeah.
we found each other again through riding motorcycles and just ran, just like, what's up? Like, I remember you, and he's been doing some big studio stuff.
Yeah.
Man, he had some stories to say. But the one important thing we have to have in any life, I don't care if you're an actor, film, or whatever it is you do, you have to have a life outside of that. So in my world, we'll say a life outside of Hollywood, because if you let it consume you, that's when you see some bad stuff happen, or you don't have your own identity. And right now, I'm content kind of what I'm doing, because I know I see what's coming. I see what I'm working on. I'm like, okay. But if I didn't self-create and have my circle, I'd probably be feeling desperate or something like that. But I'm, where people just go and do stupid things and get involved with whoever. I'm like, who's this? I get people send me stuff a lot. I'm like, right away, I'm almost not interested unless I know who the director is or see some real, the DP. Like, everything matters for me to be involved now. It's like it's like a checklist. And you have to have that, because it's an intimate setting to do what we do. And I mean, like I said, anything. I don't even want to act like it's actors or have this extra certain life. It's certain limelight, sure, but man, everything. And when you're at work, whatever job that anyone does, you
Mm-hmm.
want your personnel around you. You can have a bad seed at your work that kills everyone's day. Yeah, I try
Mm-hmm.
to avoid that as much as possible, and very successful with that, keeping people at bay. But I'm a very easygoing guy. If I see someone in a negative light, I'll be aware of it. I try to uplift them somehow, some way. And it's not that easy sometimes, because
Yeah.
they're conditioned, programmed to be
Yeah.
negative. And I'm like, I'll just go. Like, I worked this one guy. I finally just give him a hug. I'm like, you think you need a hug, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it literally, I'm telling you, it's like we might grow up, we might be grown men, but man, sometimes we need a hug and don't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen my friend do that to someone once, and I'm telling you, the girl, she was crying. It was in a grocery store randomly, and I'm telling you that I saw the impact of that, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna start doing that more. So I hug everybody. I'm like, I'm a hugger.
So
You
just a
know,
simple little gesture actually makes a connection for someone that probably was lacking that form of connection, basically.
yeah, even during COVID, I'll still hug you. You know, I'm like,
you know,
so
you brought up something that I was curious about, because you mentioned about, some bad apples on set. Um, when you, well, actually, no, I'm going to go back a little bit further. So we were kind of talking about how you were going through some of the nonsense that you were dealing with about getting potential work and what you had to go through in order for you to get that. Um, and I touched upon it before, and I think that's the reason why I was trying to lead it with a question, because so you go through the audition process, you go through a sit down, having meetings, and have some potential project going to work on. Didn't work out because you rejected the offer for what they really want. Then afterwards, it became a little hard, I would imagine, for you to find the next gig. But then you go and take the route where you're finding it on your own. But when you find some of the work on your own, and understand when I'm asking this here, I'm not trying to be insulted by any means, but I imagine that when you are working on a film that doesn't have the same clout, doesn't have the same production value, whatever the case may be, and you're working on that, and I'm not saying you think you question this, but you will look at it and you wonder, if this is what I have to do to get to where I want, then I'm going to do that. Or are you thinking, you know what, maybe this is I should reevaluate how I'm going to handle this moving forward, because this is not where I want to be. And at this time, doing this particular type of film or working on a set like this. I mean, is there anything that comes to mind that you may have previously thought that would be, you could overcome, but then there was a hurdle like, fuck, I don't think I should. I think I should stop and reconsider what I'm doing right now.
I had that conversation with myself a while back before. I did this movie called Lost in the Crowd, and I love that it's a you can only watch it on some link. The director wants to make it truly difficult to watch for some reason. It should be on Amazon or something, but it's not. But during that process, I have no qualms with that film at all. So that's where I realized I went from a certain level of change of as an actor. Like is a major growth from that during the beginning of the process to the end of that process. And that's a whole other conversation. That process, it was a
Right.
totally different process. But you start seeing results. You're like, or you start seeing the lag of what takes for something to, that's when I go, you know what, I'm just gonna be picky, which is why I've been picky since. In certain levels, it's not like the budget has to be gigantic. It doesn't need to be $10 million or whatever. Some are, some aren't. It matters. I have a conversation with the director. I have to see who's involved. That's when I do it. Even the film I just did in Texas, the role was, there's certain things I was like, I don't want to do this. I turned it down like 3 times. But they hit my parameters, and I said, let me see the DP's reel. Sent me the DP's reel. I said, wow. And I just couldn't sleep because this character, I was dreaming about him. I had to play this role with Charlie. And I felt like, for some reason, call me a snob, whatever, I just felt like whoever else they were going to hire wasn't going to do it justice. Obviously they got someone that we all know, you know what I mean? Because they were just going to do maybe some local, maybe he was great. Like, no disrespect to him. Yeah. He wanted the role, but where I was, they gave it to me. So people have taken roles from me that are, like Gosling or whatever. And I'm taking roles from this guy now, but I had to do the role. And then when I'm on set, though, the first time I did a movie with these guys, I was thinking, yeah, I shouldn't. But that's the time that this was like, God, 9 years ago, I did a film with them, and I was thinking, yeah, I shouldn't be here. And then I looked at their parameters, and I was on set going, man, they've really come a long way. And I'm so glad that I did it, because I never want to be too proud, too big, too whatever for anything. And if I ever get to a point where it's just like I'm a household name, I'm always wanting to go get people shots, because I mean, that's at the end of the day kind of where I've been. People give me shots, like Mark Savage, Purgatory Road. I mean, Kaufman.
I was actually watching. I didn't get a chance to finish it because I got so caught up with a bunch of other stuff, because there's a lot of things that get sent out for me to look into as well. You mentioned about working with a group of people that you've come across throughout the years, and you mentioned about working on one particular project where you question it, and then years down the line you see the quality of work has improved. And then I also realized that when I think I forgot what interview it was that I heard you talk about this here, but you brought about how you were how you felt like you've evolved as an actor. And I understand there's different sources for that inspiration, for that involvement, and understand the process, and then take that elsewhere to take a chance on improving other areas that you felt like you probably could excel in, because you've excelled in one area and you've seen how it works, and you can do it in other areas too, to really expand your tools, if you will, or your skills, I meant to say.
I would love to direct a film. It's just a lot another easier said than done.
Yeah.
It'd be, there's so many people that are great at it. There's certain ones I feel like I could do. Like you're on set. I mean, you watch, you see what's going on, and know how to tell the story. So I watch, and I'm on set. Like I was just out and shooting Day Labor, which Lewis has got a part in, and I'm one of the main leads with Gage, and I was watching Roger Ellis. I was a sponge
What
that
movie was
whole
this
time.
for?
I'm on Day Labor. It's coming out. It's still in post.
Okay.
Lewis is in it. Me and Lewis took the train to LA together. We don't even have any scenes together. It's weird, but he only shot like a couple days. I shot for like 20, 21 days or something like that.
Yeah.
It's mainly me, Kevin, Danny Arroyo, Chris Ashworth, Amy Johnston is in it.
The martial artist, right? Amy
Yeah,
Johnston.
martial
Yeah, I
arts.
know who
It's
she
funny,
is. Yeah.
I knew her before I was on the train, but it's funny. That's a whole other little conversation. But the thing is, being a sponge on set, watching Ellis, he's got his experience with his crew. He knew what he wanted beforehand and how he'd come talk to us. Because sometimes when you're on the set and the script, what we're already doing here is you want to make it more competent, because filming is another rewrite. You have the script, but we're on set, we're kind of rewriting it as well as, and then post-production editing is another rewrite. So it was cool to sit with him and the actors and how he just did it. And me understanding characters and growing, and you find the right actors that you can collaborate with. I would love to direct a movie and be like, okay, let's do this. Let's, as a collaborative effort, just be so fulfilling to do it. Cause I love doing it as an actor. I love group scenes. I love like interacting with everybody. I mean, some great moments. I love to tear a scene up with Louis. It's funny, as I work with him, Daylight Saving, I don't interact with him much. He's there. We have a couple of moments. Day Labor, I don't say a damn peep to him, but we know each other offset very well. But it's and then he called me to show up on his one film. What's it called? Christmas something. Christmas Down Under or something. He called me and goes, "Hey, it's not in the script. I want you to come do a cameo." So I show up, but he's watching him direct. Lewis is amazing, as you know. The guy is, if there's a picture in the dictionary next to like charismatic, it should be Louis Mandalore.
Yeah,
Like he truly is this. But he can be gangster too. Like if you don't want, he comes to set ready. He plays no games. That's kind of how I am. When I'm on set, I expect excellence from everybody, as I want to show up, and that's part of having a good time. Not just like be serious. Look at this. It's serious, but you're focused. No bullying around, but man, be ready. Like the amateurs all the time, like camera people that don't know what they're doing. They're not listening. I mean, like Christian Bale gets shit from his flip out. He had every right to flip out after the time. If you knew the scenario going on, like some of it's just like, wow. It's like you see a bad driver constantly doing it. You just want to look at him like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? But Lewis, dude, you found a gem. He's a gem. On set, offset, everywhere. He's a gem.
I don't think the film industry is for the faint of heart at all. Like I really think this is a business that really can toughen you up, and it can also weaken you at the same time. But there are some people that I look at whose career have been so successful in terms of like being in the business for such a long time, but yet no one knows who they are. And those are the people that I always find the most interesting, because they've been through all the ins and outs of the industry. Lewis especially. There's a bunch of movies he's directed that hasn't even been seen by the public yet, I would imagine, that I've come across he's done. So with this movie Smokers, which I don't mean to take it away from you, but I'm curious if he shared you some stories about what it was like for him shooting that film, because some of the things I have heard that he has shared, it's almost impossible to really comprehend the amount of turmoil that was involved in that production, and then still see his excitement about releasing it to the public for everyone to check out. You can tell he's really passionate about
when
that.
I see him, it's mainly talking about other stuff because of other projects. We have a lot of mutual friends. I didn't know anyone else that was on the Smokers film that I think. So every time I just saw him recently and we talked about the project he shot in New York, Bring Him Back Dead, because I'm friends with Mark Say's Purgatory Road director. And I've been wanting them to connect for years because they're both Australian. I was like, oh, one Aussie, mate, let's get together, and I wanted because I'm good friends with both of them, and they finally got to work together. And I was gonna go shoot it, but I chose to film in Texas. The character they wanted me to do out there. I was like, it was this lame detective, and I'm like, you know what, this. So, or else I would have been there. But other than that, I didn't hear. I didn't hear about Smokers, man. But Lewis is the guy's. He's living like what some people live, like a very simple, mundane life. Lewis is living like 1,000 lives. He's like, and he's so passionate about all of them. He's just pure. There's people that are passionate. There's people who aren't. He's passionate, and and that's just what it is. Like, he loves to make films. He's producing with Odyssey, his film production company. They're making some great stuff. They're about to do another one in Mexico, with Ellis Fraser directing, who did Day Labor, which I think you'll appreciate Day Labor when it comes out. Especially, I don't. Lewis is not. I mean, he's in it. He's got some chunks, but if you like Amy Johnston, if you like Kevin Gage, if you like me, whatever, you're gonna see a lot of that. It's a crazy little film. So,
is it an action movie?
It's like an action drama. I mean, there's a lot going. We're hunting some people, immigrants. Can't get too much into it, but I just got a message today from the producers. Its post is almost done, and it's looking awesome. And I'm like, just right during me trying to connect with you, they sent me that message. I was like, nice. So, I don't know.
Do you have an idea as far as like the time frame when it might be potentially released?
I would guess early next year at the earliest, because once they sell it to make the final deal, and then the distributors they'll probably want to give a little bit of some dates to create some press for it or something. So it could come out this year. I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be makes more sense to be 2022, early first quarter. That's my guess. I've been, but who knows? And these guys are hustlers. So, and they got a lot of good stuff going on. They're producing a film for me that I wrote called The Hype. Same producers. And that should be it's got a good budget. I can't even mention the director, and I don't know if you know his name, but he just signed on, and I'm a fan of the show that he's directed most of the episodes. I just can't say his name legally yet, so I want to.
That NDA.
I'll tell you off the record later, so it'll be good.
Well, so let me ask you about the whole process here. What's the for you? I know you said you're very passionate about. You have a drive for this here, but what's the one thing that you dread the most? I wouldn't say you hate it, but you just dread having to do it. Whether it be writing, producing, we haven't directed yet, but parts of acting. Like, what's the one thing that you are the most you have the most love-hate relationship with, if you will?
The only thing that I dread doing is not doing it at all, if that makes any sense to you.
Okay.
Like, I love the whole process. I love
but I mean, I don't mean to say that it's not. I don't believe that. I'm not trying to imply that, but I'm curious because, I mean, when you say that, I mean, are you legitimately saying that there's not a single part of the process that you look and go, God damn it, do we really need to do this? Like, nothing that comes to mind at all when it comes to the actual work that's involved that may be too difficult or just too tedious or just boring, whatever the case may be?
It's not necessarily a particular process. It might be shooting in a particular climates or something. That would be my only bugaboo. If anything, like I don't like being cold if it's freezing, but if I wear the proper stuff, or like I was in Texas, they need to have an inconvenience fee filming in there. I used to live there for a year. I mean, I'm a snob because I grew up in Southern California, so we have great weather all year round, no matter what. It's always comfortable. Texas is never comfortable. It's either too hot, too muggy. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you're inside, then you got to deal with a bunch of flies. Doesn't matter how. I was staying in like a ridiculously nice house in Texas when I was there. Flies galore. There's nothing you could do. No, and so that's my only complaint with the industry. Other than that, sure, there's things that are, you're like, damn, you got to deal with certain people. But
Right.
if you love it enough, you're passionate about it, that's just, it's a necessary speed bump. Like we have them, and you have to embrace it thoroughly to be successful. And I literally embrace it all. I love the process from beginning to end and everything in between, really, and just keep doing it.
Okay. Well, so you talked about you pretty much grew up in California at this since you were a child, if I remember hearing correctly. At any point did you ever consider leaving California? To having traveled around as you have and seeing other parts of the country and thought, you know what, I think this is the place for me to stay at. And I'm only bringing it up here too because I actually talked to another actress, Ashley Yenny, who we touched upon how she moved from New York to California, and then and I talked about how California has gone through some major turmoil with this. We talked about I actually talked with somebody else about the homeless situation where it's just kind of out of hand. But I'm not there. I only know what I've seen on the news, but I'd rather hear from the people that are in the trenches, if you will. So for you right now, the way California is, how is it for you? And if it's good, bad, have you ever considered moving out of California and going elsewhere to live?
It's a common occurrence here because I talk to a lot of people that move here and leave here, and nothing excites me to in order for me to leave California. I have considered it before when Atlanta was hot. For a lot of filming, it was like the next Hollywood. This is about 8 to 10 years ago. And I was thinking, damn, if I went to Atlanta, because I think maybe it was right after Daylight Center or something. I had a building resume, and then I had some connections there. So I thought about that business reasons wise. But for California as a state, I mean, don't believe all the news you hear. It's just like anything in politics. Yes, there's homeless. I'd say it's gotten a little bit worse, but it's always been here. It's same as Dallas, Texas. Go to any major city.
Yeah.
If you don't find homeless people, you're lying. You know what I mean? They're everywhere. So,
well, I mean, I think what I'm trying to highlight was, and I mean, again, I'm always kind of cautious how to bring it up because I don't want to make it seem as if I'm shitting on the situation or I'm shitting on the state. That's not what my intention is. But based on the word of mouth and the images that you come across, one of the biggest problems is that there's literally shit everywhere. Homeless people are taking a shit right in the middle of the street, right in front of our kids. I mean, I remember, I think I might have heard. Well, that's what I'm getting at. So I'm hearing these stories, but again, it's really just perception, right? It's like, you drive one day and you're seeing, it's like you're watching a bear that you rarely ever see. And then all of a sudden that's going to be the headlines. Like there's a bear in the area, but he just was passing through. And then all of a sudden that sticks with, the reputation of the town. So, I try to be more cognizant of asking people about what it's like where they're at, especially in California, because I really want to know what it's like for them. But again, the most common thing that I hear about people leaving California are for one or two reasons. It's too expensive, too crowded, and I don't need to be here in the area anymore because I can send everything via tape now. So it's more of a convenience thing rather than I have seen more because of a political climate change or, the homeless issue. Because, I've been to New York on more than one occasion. I've seen a shit ton of homeless people, but it never deterred me from wanting to go back. So I just didn't understand why that was a major highlight for people to point out. But I think there are bigger problems out there than seeing shit on the road. Not that I'm saying I'm all for it, but
with that, I mean, I live in SoCal. Like I live about 30, 40 miles south of Los Angeles. Do I want to live in LA County? Absolutely not.
Why is that for you?
It's that is where you're just piled up, and it's been that way. It's just, I mean, for any state, the infrastructure, California is, I think it's the best infrastructure of any state. If you look at, I mean, you read about it and you see it don't look at it from a biased perspective. California is the only state that could be its own country. If it was its own country, it'd be the 6th most profitable country, period. Like, those are just facts with the resources it can pull off. Infrastructure is good. LA, the major cities, sure. I mean, you can have bad experiences. I mean, there's some people that walk around and you're like, damn, even now in Huntington Beach, I see there's some, like, California put this law, and I'm all for people getting help, but hopefully that it works. So they have across the street from this, near where I'm always at, is a homeless shelter. It's like a man-made tent, but it's secured. And it's for 5 years, and it's supposed to help the homeless rehabilitate themselves. But the thing is, they're not putting in accountability. Most of these people don't want help. They don't want to work. They don't want nothing. They got some other issues. So I don't know how far that's going to aid them. I heard Hawaii's having the same problem, but I've never been there, so it's speculatory. But I wouldn't. It's a certain place you don't want to live because it is I'd say it is getting overcrowded. For people saying they're leaving California, I was like, why is the population growing? Orange County's getting a little congested, but it's only in certain spots. LA, 100%. I don't like going to LA. Like, I'll meet my buddies. I'll do, like, I met Lewis a couple weeks ago. It is not necessary to live there. In LA, the surrounding areas, it's pointless. And it is more expensive. You're paying a higher tax. California, I don't know if it's like that where you live, but each zip code is a different tax. Like, our state tax it's no state tax, it's city tax. Mine's 7.75. A lot of LA is 10.25.
I thought it was 12%. I thought it was 12%.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's not like a statewide tax. Like, some of our states just statewide, one single number. California is by each county, each state. Like, even in Orange County, we're 7.75 in Huntington, but the next city over, Fountain Valley, is 8.75. But yeah, Long Beach, LA, most of it's 9.5 to 10.25 in any LA county. San Francisco is very bad with the homeless thing. I think they're 9.25 in sales tax now. They were always 8.75, but they bumped up. But 12%, I don't know. I've never heard of that. But
okay. Well, maybe like I said, I just heard it. I heard it through. This is like, I think, over a year ago when I first heard about that. But again, people were talking about it, and I just heard and assumed that was probably the general tax for the state or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's some business thing or something. But I'll tell you what. And I did move to Texas for a year back in 2016, and the rent is about the same there and buying a property, but your property tax is higher. So in the short, not even long run, short term, you're paying more. Yes, you get a bigger property for cheaper than you would in California. That's the one thing. Yeah, you want what $1 million to do here is not a whole lot, compared to what it would do somewhere else. That's the only fact that I agree with half the time. But your property tax is higher. My car insurance is $109 here, full coverage on a new car. I went to Texas. My insurance was $323 a month. Same car. It's just because you're paying for weather damage, whatever, and that was the same coverage. So, and I did the math. It cost me more to live in Texas for a year, even with cheaper gas, than it would be in California. It's about the same, if not cheaper here for my lifestyle. And I'm a pretty simple guy, but because it's every day. I know people from Texas, and there's always that battle. It's this and that, this and that. I'm like, dude, trust me. If you lay the facts down, I never want to live in Texas again. So you can't enjoy yourself. Like, to me, here in California, 12 months, almost 12 months out of the year, I'm not a beach goer. I live right by the beach. If I want, I can go to the beach. And if in the same day I can go right, and during this, if it's the winter time, I can go an hour away, snowboard, and then come down the mountain, hop in another car, and go to the desert and ride dirt bikes in the same day. And weather just fit at all. That's the beauty of it. I don't know if you can do that in any other state. And we can do that all the time. That is why it's hard for me to leave California. People talk about it. I don't know if it's politics that are putting it. I don't get it. I'm like, go where? Like, where would you want to go? I mean, leave LA. Sure. LA is not, for an actor, you do not need to live in LA. I've lived there for 6 months. One point, I was done. It's not great. It's probably like any, probably bad cities in New York or wherever. So
Well, when you mentioned about Texas, it dawned on me about because Will is like really adamant about wanting to shoot everything in Dallas, because he's like, I love Dallas. If I could shoot in Dallas every time, I'd be happy with that. So I'm wondering what his perspective is about why he is so so for that, sticking around with Dallas. And for your experience, obviously you just kind of share that a little bit, how that's such a big contrast between the two of you, and when you guys are with what you're sharing and with what Will is praising here, if you will, about Texas.
well, yeah, I mean, Will he grew up, he's been all over the place, but I don't think
Mhm.
he's ever lived here. So when you grow up here, that's the thing is, I'm coming from a perspective of being spoiled. You're living the best weather on the planet pretty much from a young age. So anywhere else I go, it's not good. If I leave 100 miles east of where I live, it just starts getting worse. It's either way too damn hot, or then it's rainy, or you can't plan a picnic. It's nice one day, you turn around, you got a huge storm coming behind you. That's what Texas was for me. Some really good people. He's got a great infrastructure there, though, Will. So it's easy for him to say that. Dallas, that area where he's at, he's in a good spot where if I were to ever go back to Texas, that would be the area. Other parts, I'm just like, he lives in, like, he's got one of the better parts of Texas for sure. So and they stopped the tax incentive, though. That's the thing. That's another thing why we were filming in Texas. They were putting the tax incentive thing. They canceled it, and guess who matched the biggest one now? It was like a month ago. California finally matched the tax incentive state, which they killed 10 years ago. But maybe Will's used to that weather. I don't know. It's not like it's horrible. It's not the worst weather I've ever seen, but it's not. Weather's a big problem, is a factor for me to live. Visiting, sure, go to Texas. But I don't know. I mean, he can film everything there, but Will's a special being. So he has a way about him that can make Texas seem like heaven. Because when I was there, so maybe that he's a special being where he can do that. He's not your normal typical man. So he's what makes Texas a great place, I think, in the long run. And a few other people I know. I know some amazing people in Texas, and he's one of them. So it's, more power to him. He can fly. I'm just not a huge fan of.
I see.
But a lot of it, I have some personal issues there that just, it stung me the wrong way. Very bad situation, which is another way I hinder it, because it represents not Texas, but this particular people involved represent Texas pride, and I'm like, well, you're horrible. So and I'm sure Will understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He knows who I'm talking about.
Right.
So, and it would leave a sour taste in anyone's mouth forever.
Right. One of the things that I found rather interesting with you about your whole journey as an actor was that the amount of work that you've done. My wife and I are huge fans of horror. My wife especially, but we love horror movies. It's my second favorite genre. But you had the chance to work with Brad Dourif in the film *Malignant*, and I actually had a chance to watch the movie. And one of the things that I was very curious about, because I know not too long ago you guys had a thing going on where you were doing like a live viewing of something of that sort, if I remember correctly.
Which, yeah.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, unfortunately I wasn't able to keep up with it, but I know that you were going to be involved with it, and I believe Brad was going to be involved with it too, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
No, I don't think he was involved. It was a girl that has kind of like a channel like you, but for on Twitch, Cult Comedy Cinema, and they wanted to do Purgatory Road, and then a lot of people were saying, "Well, get Gary back on. What do you want to do?" And then they recommended *Malignant*. I said, "Let's do it." So we kind of watched it live together. Like I would talk to her, and there's a chat forum on it or whatever, and it was just like we watched the movie and just talk about it, and it's kind of a fun, organic experience.
So tell me about that experience on working on that film, because when I was watching it, I was unaware of it. like I said before, and I know that Brad has worked on several different projects, and I know that you've worked on several different projects too. But coming together for this movie, what was it about it for you that made you want to work on the film? Because I'm wondering if a lot of it had to do with Brad's name being thrown in the mix, or if that was before, after the fact that you were involved. The story in itself, because it's actually a rather interesting story that I actually did enjoy. But I'm curious about what it was for you that made you want to pursue it at that point.
That's a good question, man. The Brad was part of it, but the very first thing before I even knew he was going to be involved was I did the audition, and it was at the director's house. It was the wife's a cinematographer and producer, and it was a very intimate feeling, which I love that. I like the intimate setting because it's just where you can just, I don't know, it's just something about it. It's just real, and it's just strong performance where you can just go there. So we met at the director's house, which she probably met every actor there. And I remember reading the script before. My manager at the time sent it to me the night before, and I loved it because he's the main guy, but a lot of times he's just living, he's being, and he's not saying a lot. That was my biggest attraction at first, because I was like, I get to show real emotion a lot, throughout a course of the movie, not just one or two scenes. I get to just be simple, this grieving guy or whatever he's going through. That was my biggest attraction, because a lot of times people think that you're only acting when you're speaking, and I'm like, no, you're acting at all times. You're listening, you're speaking, you're whatever. It's all, every moment matters. And Malignant represented that to me. And then at my callback, they mentioned, Brad Dourif's going to play the man. And I said, oh, and I didn't want to leave that audition without letting them know that I was the man to play Alex. And I knew they had some names. They had some names, that were wanting to do the movie. And then the one money guy was like, he liked me, but he obviously wanted the big name to play the role that was kind of itching for it. And then I told the director, let's do this. Can we do these other scenes? Let's just do them. They're like, really? Why? I said, yes, do them right now. I was ready. I was prepared. And I said, I don't want to leave here without you guys knowing I'm capable of carrying this film, doing whatever. And I said, whatever scene you want to do, let's do it. Let's roll. And we did so many of the hospital scenes, emotional stuff, just, and it went well, obviously. But I remember the director calling me a couple of days later going, he's like, I don't know if I should tell you this yet. He's like, but you are, you're the front runner. And he's like, I want you. He's like, but it's not all my say, because I'm not, the money people and blah, blah, blah. And I said, and I knew I was fighting up an uphill battle. I mean, that's been my whole life. I'm the underdog. And, it's fine. I thrive off that. So that, and then when Brad Dourif, man, I've literally, before Malignant ever was mentioned to me, I'd studied Brad Dourif 2 particular times for auditions. Billy Bibbit, his stuttering is slow. I've watched One Foot of the Cuckoo's Nest just to study Brad Dourif. So he's been an inspiration for me as an actor from a child to now, and to work with him intently for a week that we had together. And he's been gracious since. He's been, with the screenings and stuff like that, dinners. He's so full of wisdom that I've carried with me to this day. I mean, I think of Brad Dourif probably every single day. And that's why Malignant's always gonna be a special project for me. But go ahead. Yeah, I can go.
No, I was gonna say, because that's one thing I picked up on in the movie too, because I could see, I try not to be too, I don't want to assume too many things, but I remember when I was watching the movie, and this is the truth, I remember distinctly thinking, I could see why you wanted the role. It's exactly what you just said. The emotional beats that's required for the film, and then the transformation of the character, especially at the end. And then it led me to another film that I remember you talking about called Monumental, which is a movie I actually saw not too long ago. And one thing I actually noticed on the credits too, because usually I pay attention to that stuff in some occasions, but in this particular time, I was watching the movie and I saw Chad's name on the credits as one of the producers. So I was like, oh, so you worked with him before? I wasn't sure if I can't recall if that movie was shot after Daylights or before Daylights. I don't remember the exact details.
Okay. It was shot literally 2 months, a month before I got back from the road trip portion. We had 2 weeks in Southern California, and then we had 2 weeks on the road, like literally to New York and back. Like everywhere you saw in the movie, we drove. I got back, and then a week later, I went to Dallas and started filming Daylight's End originally. So it was back to back. And Malignant was kind of the year before Monumental. So it was a lot. And then even threw a night visit or whatever, one of those in between. They called me for a favor, so I did that one too. But it was a busy time.
So how long did it take for you to shoot Monumental, like from start to finish?
From principal photography, I think it was like 25 days. And it was obviously we're proud of what we're getting, but I mean, you're talking about, if you know how hard it is to make a film, we had no money. Like we were just using money. I was paying for things along the way. We raised a very little bit about,
I wanted to ask you about that, because I kind of had a feeling that was kind of the case from what I was watching in the movie. So yeah, I didn't mean to cut you up, but I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have much, dude. We just, wanted to make something that was truly independent. So it was I wanted to go on the road and do a road trip. So I wrote the script early on, and then Luke came on and, collaborated with me on it, and then we produced it. We started it, it was a hell of a journey. It could have been easier if we left. He's texting me right as we're talking, because we're about to do a pilot together. We laugh about it. I mean, just certain things that I want to say on here with it. But I'll tell you, off the record too later, what I would do differently. But there's also the same particular situation we wouldn't have been able to do without somebody too. So it's a give take thing. But overall, it is what it is, and it was a hell of an experience, man. Like I've never been in a helicopter. I feel like the script, or the RV read the script, because it just did not want to work. It just is like, you hear the Jaws story, Steven Spielberg talking about Bruce with the shark not working. Well, shoot, the RV just,
that was your Jaws.
So, and it's funny, in the original, when we were going to film the movie, we're driving to get into Virginia Beach after New York. We weren't sure what we were going to do with the RV. We organically were like, let's smash this motherfucker. You know what I mean? So we had the monster truck come and smash it, and that was it. We had to obviously get one take on that. So we set it up, and it's a great experience. You learn what to do and what not to do. Who to get involved, who not to get involved. So that's what Monumental was at the end of the day for us.
Yeah, because when I was watching the movie, I kind of picked up on certain characteristics of the film that seem more spontaneous than it probably should have been, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember
some of it.
Seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot that was, planned, but spontaneous is a good word. There's some things that just towards the end with it's amazing that we had this derby, and dude, I don't know what we would have done if the derby guy, where I'm supposed to be in the car, and I thought I was gonna be in the car, how we edit that, it was weird because it got screwed up. Obviously, I'm sure you could tell. I mean, it's not gonna win no fucking editing and what awards or anything like that. So it's if the guy that you see, that the car that I get out of in Monumental, he got eliminated early on. If he didn't get to come back in, I don't know what we would have done. I still don't know. It was like, if there's a higher power that was coming down that was saying, we're going to help you. Because I was like, dude, where's this guy at? Like, I'm watching the damn derby, and I'm like, what the hell? Because it was a real derby that we just, they cooperated with us. They like were announcing. The thing is, I did a scene where they roll up and they announced my character's name, Steve Sullivan, pulling up, blah, 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 in the derby. Yeah. I don't know why he couldn't hear it. The director wasn't filming it. We had two cameras. I don't know how that got lost, but either way, I still don't know what would happen if that derby guy didn't get in and he got second, but we just said that I won, whoop-de-doo for the movie's sake. But he was like eliminated right away. So it was a scary thing. But yeah, a lot of it was you just on the whim, man. What can you do? I mean, that's kind of what I wanted though. Like,
so was a lot of the things that you shot while you guys are on the road, was that all pre-planned, or was it just kind of like on the spot? Like, hey, can we just get some local actors or anyone that can act out these scenes with us for this amount of time? Because part of me felt it was kind of like that at times. I'm not saying that in a negative light by any means. I'm just wondering that because it seemed like because I wasn't sure how much of the scenes you guys were shooting were really scripted on the road.
No, they were scripted. Just the most of the stuff was shot in L.A. Most of the interiors were shot in L.A.
Okay.
So if you like the New York stuff, the the inside the hotel, those are L.A. people. We shot that in a hotel and outside, little spots in North Hollywood or something. Um, Virginia, when we have that scene where we pull up and Luke, gets arrested, whatever that fight, that was Virginia Beach, local guy, couple locals there that we put for that. And the cop was local, but what was funny about the cop, she's British. We didn't care about the British accent. That's fine. But we didn't, for post-production ADR, we couldn't get her to do it, or lack of communication. You know what I mean? We lost contact, and we needed to get the ADR done because the whole film had to be ADR'd because our sound guy was stoned the entire time. That what he heard in his I swear, dude, like we had to ADR 95% of the post, literally,
Really?
of everything. It was very difficult. So I thought we were gonna have to just forget the film at one point. So Luke Albright, his wife Agnes Albright, who ended up, she's in the film too. She plays the blonde girl in it. She did the ADR for
The cop.
the cop, and who was British, but I mean the timing. I was there in the ADR, just going, man, Agnes is amazing. She's a great actress, but I mean, very little. No prep. It was winging it. Heard it and goes, okay. Picked up this little Southern twang. She could have made any voice she wanted because it was ADR. And
Right.
man, so I mean, watching that process from ADR, and we're in Paramount Studios, dude, where they have Academy Award editing bays and everything, and we're filming my little indie movie there post production. It was we had an amazing post people to come fix what was trashed while filming. That's why we know who to not hire again. A handful of people, to be honest with you.
So was that one of your best experiences working on a film with the road, traveling on the road, and then shooting on sets and or relocations to show as being at a different part of the country? I mean, was that a very a good experience for you guys, and a joyous one for you too, or was it a constant? I mean, I'm not sure if it's a fair question to ask, but was it a constant, like, stressful situation that have pockets of joyous moments in the shooting?
Looking back,
Yeah.
we look back as joyous, but during it was probably definitely stressful.
Okay.
A lot of driving, and lucky I had some people with me, crew people that were doing a lot of driving, because I didn't sleep the first 4 days because I had to make sure, where are we going here? How are we getting there? What's going to happen here? We're going to St. Louis Arch. We have this second team going here. So I'm producing the film at the same time as playing one of the leads. Logistically was, in the indie world, people always go, they want to make a movie that has one location because that's what they want. Well, my one location was the United States of America. So I'm not the common guy that just likes to take the easy route. My whole life has not been easy per se, but it's not that it's hard either, but I don't take the traditional route. I don't let that phase me, going, okay, yeah. Because I've had people at the time go, Gary, you're going to green screen this? You screened it easier. I said, no, we're going here. That was what it was about. It was about a journey. A lot of things I wish we could have done better. Obviously, almost everything. But at the end of the day, man, like, it was almost like it was scripted, but to do what we accomplished was very difficult.
Right.
So me and Luke, yeah, we're proud of what it is, but there's people that want, like, part two. Like, I had some ideas where we could do controversial stuff. We talk about America and this happened, and I was like, I had some people go, we should do this. I'm like, and do it right this time. Me and Luke would probably co-direct on that one, because.
So when you look at the movie now, do you look at it more fondly, or do you still have a little bit of some of, like, those moments where you're like, you tell yourself, this probably could have been, I mean, I know you mentioned just now that you wish you could do things a little bit differently, but I mean, do you look at that more under those same lenses, or do you have more of a fond memory after you've already been through what you've been through making the film?
Yeah, it is great. Overall, great memories.
Okay.
And how Chad Law was involved. Yeah, I've known Chad. He's been one of my best friends long before Daylight's In. We connected on IMDb chat boards when they had him. And he was trying to do this movie called Daylight's In, but it
Yeah.
was a completely different story. We just took the title and made Daylight's In later. But I was driving through Indiana. I was one of my pass, and he came through big, let us, got us a hotel room a night to stay in at this night, the whole crew. He supplied us at his mom's house to film in the farm, those fields and the house we're in. That's his
Oh, that was
mother's
his
house.
mom. That's his
His
mother's house.
his childhood house that he grew up in too. He
Oh,
lives in
really?
yeah. So that's where Chad Law grew up, him and his brother, and
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah. So Chad was a big part of. That's why he's a producer. I think he even donated some money to our cause for it too. So it was great. We got to see him and go from there. And then I saw him shortly after and shooting Daylight's In. He was on set so the whole time. But I've known Chad very well, and so it's all getting to the point too where everyone I've came up with is becoming shot callers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've actually reached out to Chad recently, actually, and I think he's over in Bulgaria right now as of this recording. But he was, I asked, would you be interested in doing the interview? He says, yeah, I would love to, but I'm busy right now. Reach back to me back in, I think he said mid-October, if I'm not mistaken, to try to see if we can reconnect and get that to happen. So I'm hoping that would come to fruition pretty soon here with him. But I think that's interesting that you shared that with, because that's actually one of the best scenes in the movie, in that farm scenes you have there, because there's a lot of the scenes that I was very surprised that I came across with the movie was that, they're the emotional impact that the film does have. They're pockets. They have those moments where you have these uh, emotional scenes that you have between you and your character and Luke's character. Forgive me because I forgot their names already, but that when you're actually passing through the country and you're getting these shots, that's the one thing that impressed me about the movie, because there was a part of me that wondered how much of it is going to be CGI'd or green screen or whatever the case may be. So I appreciated that you guys actually went out of your way to revisit a lot of these locations, and a lot of them I'm very familiar with, especially when you guys were out in on the East Coast. I was like, oh, I know that part of Virginia Beach. I've been there before. So I was like,
yeah.
okay, so I see what you guys were doing, which led me to ask you about, was a lot of this improvised when you were on those locations, because some of those scenes, they were pretty well shot. They were really well put together. But I was curious to see if that's something that was pre-planned ahead of time in
they
order for it to
were
work out the way they did.
they were all scripted, but
Yeah.
when it comes down to like cinematography and direction, that end had to do more improv, because we're on Mount Rushmore. We're like, fuck, there's a lot of people here. What do we do? And
Yeah.
we're coming from LA, where you have a permit and the cops still try to shut you down. That's why the bonus features, I'm sitting by, you see the St. Louis Arch behind me, and I'm talking shit about LA, saying fuck shooting in LA. Because I had a permit and cops are harassing me on private property. And then I go to, what's crazy about Monumental is we were at Red Hook, Brooklyn, whatever.
Yeah. Red Hook's in Brooklyn. Yeah.
We're looking at the Statue of Liberty. I don't know, it was like early in the morning because it's all hazy. Then we were in Philadelphia. This is all the same day, same sunlight. It's Philadelphia. I'm walking around there. I was trying to get to the Liberty Bell. Logistically, we couldn't, too many people. So we left, bailed, and then we went to Washington, D.C. Same day, do the Lincoln. This all literally within hours of each other.
Yeah.
So when we're setting that up, we didn't need to have a big moment there. It wasn't in the script. So everything was kind of there. I was shocked that all the security at the Lincoln Memorial or whatever monument, whatever that is, they didn't say nothing to us. We had a huge camera set up, and no one walked up and said nothing. I mean, we're setting up some things. I mean, it was very basic, but you do that in LA, man, they're gonna ask you for $10,000. Or fine you or whatever, call the cops, point guns at you. I mean, literally, that's what was happening here. And we were doing nothing wrong. St. Louis Arch, I was trying to make friendly with the security because I thought he was walking up to us. We had this huge, all this equipment. And he goes, hey, I go, and he just walked past us. And I said, hey, can you take a picture of us? You know, he goes, yeah, yeah. He goes, that's a nice camera. And I go, yeah. And he goes, I'm all, well, we're shooting some student film, I said. And because I didn't want to make hoopla, you know, where I'm from, you can't, they'll shut you down. He was like, oh, you guys want to shoot in here? I was like, oh, you can go up. I didn't even know you go in the St. Louis Arch. He's like, yeah, come on in. And I didn't want to go because it's time frame and I don't like heights. So I was like, oh, fuck it. So we had to get to Chad because we went to St. Louis and I had to get to Chad in Indianapolis. So where I was like, no, we got to hit the road now because a tornado was coming too. I was like, oh no, like it's something I don't have to worry about normally. And so it was a lot of that, dude. A lot of, oh, here we go. Let's shoot. Okay, gotta go. Make the
That's
most
amazing.
of. Yeah, you almost got 1 or 2 takes and make it work. And then you got to keep moving. That was what Monumental was, in a nutshell, pretty everywhere. And then the RV. Oh, let's hope it stops leaking oil. We had to put Band-Aids over it, and we had Batman once, a Batman Band-Aid, and then we thought Superman would be stronger because Batman wasn't holding it. So we were trying to find humor along the way. Fucking Superman wasn't
I love
stronger.
that.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious. That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that though, because like I said, there's a lot of things that I did take away from the movie that honestly, because I didn't really know other than what I saw in the trailer, because I heard you talk about it before in one previous interview, and then I was like, well, let me check this movie out. I checked out the trailer. I was like, okay, let me watch it. And then when I was watching it, I was genuinely surprised to see how connected I was with the story. But again, what I appreciated the most is because I've seen enough films where you can kind of pick up characteristics about, okay, this is kind of where this was supposed to be going. Did it turn out this way? You kind of get a feel for that. But in this movie, like I said before, I had a strong feeling that there was a lot of hurdles you guys were going through, considering that it's independent and you're going across the country. And then seeing what you guys were able to shoot, and then you sharing these stories to how you were able to get access, especially in DC, because I'm originally from that area. So I'm very familiar with all that stuff. And it didn't really surprise me too much. And when you said that, I'm surprised the security didn't stop us. And I was like, yeah, I've seen worse things happen in DC that didn't get stopped at all. But unless you're like coming in to create a protest, that's where you're going to cause all the attention. But, but it takes something that drastic for you to get attention rather than having to pull up a couple of cameras on a tripod to shoot a little sequence somewhere. It's common. So I think they got used to that. But I'm sure for you, being in the trenches and going through that experience and actually putting in the work, I'm assuming that because you have a whole different perspective behind that, that your appreciation level is, is at a different level compared to most of the people who are on the other side, just simply viewing it rather than actually being a part of it. So I'm not sure if you want to comment on that or have any additional insight that you think that you may want to share upon that.
I mean, my appreciation level for it, I mean, that's why it comes down to, again, that what we talked about earlier, that keeping your circle tight. Because if you go, sometimes you deal with BS, sometimes you don't. But when you know what you're getting involved with and with who, it could possibly be a smooth sailing, and you're passionate. For instance, like Day Labor, shot it in December during the freaking pandemic in Mexico, Baja. I was going to do a TV show. I booked it, recurring role, would have paid more money. I ended up saying no because, I mean, I would have done it, but it was the same time as Day Labor. There's nothing better than doing a film. Like, it's everything. It's an artistic expression. It's bonding. To me, it's priceless. My buddy David Walks calls me and goes, yo, we're doing this movie called Day Labor. I want you to play this role, Lucas. It's one of the main dudes, blah, blah, him and Ojan. I love their passion in filmmaking. They're a budding production company. They say Roger Ellis is directing. I'm like, no, me and Roger have been trying to collaborate for a couple of years. Hasn't worked out. I said, no, that didn't work out for a few projects. Boom, we're there. I mean, I'm out there. Just being out there, and I remember sitting there, and it's just why it's fitting for this question. I remember sitting in Mexico almost every day, even the rides to set. From they pick me up at the hotel and we're riding. It's about an hour away to set every day. Just looking at it, go, man, I appreciate this. This is great. This is what I love to do. I love the process. Some people complain, but that set was special, had special people. Everybody there, every actor loved being there. I'm talking, there's a guy, an actor named David Fernandez in it. He's in a pretty good chunk of the film, you know. He'd get in the van every day and be like, guess what we're doing today, with big energy, like a cheerleader, and would just be like, we're making a movie today. I mean, the passion was there from everybody, the crew. And that's a special project. Louis, I mean, my buddy Louis, I just know appreciating it. And there's times when I'm in Texas filming it. I remember sitting there in my first day of filming, dude. I got back where I was staying at 1 a.m. I landed at midnight, 1 a.m. I'm on set at 8 a.m. 7-hour fret. I'm dead tired. The most grueling 12 hours of my entire career was there in Texas for that first day. And we went through so many pages, big, long, emotional stuff. I remember sitting, I don't know if I posted the picture, I'm just gone. I'm like sitting there. I don't have a cigarette. I felt like I needed a cigarette, but I couldn't have one for the film for some reason. I don't know. I don't smoke, but the character needed one. I took that photo. I looked like trashy and whatever, or someone just snapped at me. At that moment, I remember thinking, I just want to be here. Like, as much as the weather sucked, I was appreciating the moment. Like I think I wrote something about appreciating not the vanity of it, the inner struggles of the characters, and the inner struggles of making films. Like, it's not easy. I mean, what you do, you wake up and you live your life. I mean, there's probably some struggles in what you do and however you do it. I mean, everything that you do. But I'm sure you seem to appreciate it because you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. We probably wouldn't have connected if you didn't have appreciation for what you do. So it's like, yeah, dude, honestly, I love the whole damn process. There's a time that I fell off after Daylight's In, and not because of Daylight's In, it was because of other things. But I wanted to take time away from Hollywood, but I needed to regroup myself. Now I'm just madly in love with it again. I love let's play. I call it let's play. Let's who I'm playing with today. You know what I mean? Like, what characters could we just explore and have fun with? I remember doing that with Day Labor. And a quick thing about Day Labor, I don't know if you know the actor Corn Nemec. I don't know how old you are, but if you grew up and if you remember the show Parker Lewis in the early 90s or whatever,
yeah, it sounds familiar.
He's the reason why I wanted to become an actor. Like, there's a lot, we grew up things, but I remember seeing something in particular going, wow, this guy, he was in this miniseries. It's the same actor, completely different role. So I followed him ever since. Me and him, long story short, we became buddies through this same stalker that we had randomly that connected us. I don't know why she did that. We didn't even know who this chick was. We ended up blocking her. But long story short, we became buddies online. He comes to LA, I'd see him. And I've always wanted to work with Corn. David Walks calls me one day and goes, you know anyone with some name value we can toss for this role? The director wants someone like this to play your uncle. And I just instantly thought of Corn Nemec, and they didn't know who he was. And I looked him up, and the director's like, oh, yeah, I know who he is. He's a phenomenal actor, phenomenal. Like Lewis, him, and you'll see in Day Labor, he's a scene stealer. And you're talking about what he made the script, made it colorful. But there's a photo I took sitting down, or someone took me and Corn Nemec sitting, and I knew him a little bit before, but to work with a guy, 30 years later, that inspired me to become an actor there's a highlight from my career for me. And so that's Day Labor. Those are what I live for. I wonder what my next project's going to be. Like, I have some things lining up. I'm going to be on, like, I'm excited, man. There's so many things going on, but I'm curious when Day Labor comes out, what you think of it. And it's a dark controversial piece, I think, just because of the nature of what's going on. But I think you'll appreciate as a film buff, what it entails and who's in it and how it's done. So I don't know. I can go on and on. So I probably lost track of what we were talking about. But
no, that's perfectly fine, because I rambled on, and I try to be cognizant of when I'm getting into something. So I didn't think with what you're saying as a topic. I think it was actually very relevant to what the question was, and led to something a little more profound than what I anticipated. So I think it's a rather valid statement that you made. I wanted to actually point out something about you that I actually came to appreciate after watching your movies. And when I saw Daylight's End, I've seen the movie a bunch of times, and I love it every single time I watch it. But then I always notice new things here and there that I've come across that I love. So obviously, when I became more aware of you, then I started watching a lot of your some of your other films. Um, I never really, I guess because Daylight's End just only showed a certain aspect of what you are meant to be doing and what you're capable of pulling off. But it's movies like Monumental, where you have a really nice emotional scene with your mother, which I got to give you a lot of credit because I saw a lot of that same emotional beats that you saw in that I meant to say that I saw in Malignant.
Yeah.
And then when I saw Malignant, then I'm watching Monumental. I'm seeing the progression of what the character's journey is. That movie, Monumental specifically, had shown me that you are a very, very good actor. And I'm not blowing smoke. I'm being legitimate when I say that. And I've seen, when I saw that role, I was like, okay, so I can see why Lewis. I mean, I know Lewis was saying nice things about you as a person, but he also was highlighting about how good of an actor you really were. And when I saw that movie, that's when I noticed. I was like, okay, now I see it. So, I am a fan of you now because of that movie. That's the movie that really changed my perception about you as an actor. Not that I say Malignant didn't do that for me. It definitely showed me that you were capable, but Monumental was really one that really kind of opened the floodgates, if you will, of really seeing the potential and what I imagine the growth of you as an actor. So, when you're talking about these projects that you're mentioning, your day labor, I'm very curious to see what it is you're doing, especially the film that you've done with one of the other films you've done with Lewis as well. So this leads me to one of my bigger questions that I really wanted to ask you, which I kind of forgot because I wanted to bring it up in the beginning, which was when you're doing those emotional scenes. I'm not sure how difficult it is for you to really get into that moment and to get that momentum built up for you, and if you're able to maintain it, if it requires you to keep that going for a while. When you're doing those emotional scenes, is it very draining for you? Is it very difficult for you to keep that up or to get into that, or is it an easier process for you because you're taking inspirations from certain things that you may have gone through the day or going through your life, and then infuse that into the performance?
It's a two-part answer because I've been asked this a lot. Actually, you just did it in a better way. It's not hard for me to get there because when the time comes on set, I'm prepared. Right. I know what needs to happen. Is it hard to maintain? No, you just stay focused. And Malignant in particular, I know there's a part where I'm sitting on the wall and I'm drinking and Brad Dourif comes up behind. I shot that 2 different times, 2 months apart. So one time Brad's not even there and I'm just talking because we already shot him out, all his stuff, because we had shot the third act first. I remember we did take after take after take, and every single take I was screaming. And I remember the cinematographer guy, they were just like, wow, how you do this every take? I said, before this movie, I was never able to do it like that. To me, it's like, I kind of created the saying, it's like, whatever the role requires is what I desire. So that's what Alex needed. I mean, I've never lost anyone close to me. I've never lost in my entire life. And I don't believe in going back to a time in Gary's life to bring Alex to life. Like, to me, it's Gary's job to bring Alex to life, not Alex to get to know Gary and fucking tell his fucking story. Mm-hmm. So I don't do that. I look at the script, and if I can't feel it, dude, I don't do it. That's why I did this film in Texas. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of, dude, I cried reading this script, and I was like, damn, who could do this? The guy's I play a piece of crap character. I just needed to do it right because I don't know. I just felt like these guys weren't going to do it right. Dude, I was emotional. It comes off, and that's why they're like, a lot of the extras, some of us are first time experience on set, and there's these people around me. When we roll, we roll. David Newport, the cinematographer, now we're buddies, man. He's doing some big stuff right now. He was just talking like, change the bar, like you raise the bar. And that's how I want to be known. When they work with me, they don't know who I am before they work with me, they will after. And it's not like an ego thing. It's like, I want to go be the best, and I take the best. Like, yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with some talented people, and I carry it with me. Like I said, Brad Dourif's wisdom, You're working with Brad Dourif. You can't rise to the occasion. You better call it quits, man. And that's just how I see it. I've worked with some greats in Hero Wanted with, you know, Kim Coates and Ray Liotta. Well, I didn't have really scenes with him, but Tommy Flanagan, Norman Reedus, these guys, you know what I mean? Like they're serious actors. They care. So from early on, I've been bred to be that way. But I've always kind of been, man. I'm very efficient. And like I said, I just like to play. I'm free. I don't get nervous. Like to me, my character's not nervous. Why the hell am I nervous? People always ask, "Don't you get nervous?" I'm like, nah, dude. I'm more nervous in my real life than I am when that camera's rolling. It's like Lewis, where it's like a damn lion. You let the lion out of the cage. That's what it's gonna be like. So, but yeah, those scenes they're not hard. They're almost easier for some reason. And I don't think of anything from the past. I only think about that moment because that's all that matters. That character, that whatever he's going through.
Yeah, you kind of remind me of like what I always view as an actor, that because I'm not I've I've heard countless stories of like actors who try the method acting approach, and I understand it, and that's what works for them, and I get that. But with what you just described to me, that's how I always envision what an actor is meant to do. Is they're having to take what they need to do the scene justice, to do the character justice, even if they don't have.
That's organic.
Right.
That's the most organic way to do it. I mean, if I were to sit here, I have to think, okay, we're about to roll camera, and I'm like, hold on, let me think of this tragic event that happened in my life to get emotional. I mean, how unauthentic is that? I mean, when I've had people tell me that, I've called them out, and when people use the fake tear shit, I told it, I'm not gonna say the actor's name, but I said, get the fuck out of here. Like I said, are you kidding me? Like I said, this is no, because she's like, why don't you? I said, no, I don't use any of that shit. Mine's all day long. You need me to be fun, I'll just drink tons of water if I'm gonna dry up. Like either you can bring it or don't show up. Give it to someone else that's passionate enough to perform. And that's the problem, is I know you're a fan of, you discover actors. I mean, you're discovering who I am. You discover who Lewis is. Like, give guys like us a shot if those big boys don't want to take the, show up. Like, because there's plenty. There's guys you don't know about that are phenomenal. There's guys that I don't know about that are phenomenal. I hope to work with those guys. There's maybe some guy in New York sitting here is pushing and pushing, can't get a break. I can't wait to work with that guy because I'm sure it's going to be fire. And that's what I thrive for in the indie world. There's some big studio stuff coming up, but I don't care if it's studio or indie, man. I care about the role and if it's going to make me feel something. So that's where I'm at with everything right now. I'm just.
Well, so let me ask you this here. Well, because I think you pretty much answered my question, but I guess I'm hoping you can probably delve into it a little bit further, which is that I'm curious if at any point when you started getting into acting, I know you did it for the passion, but was at any point, did you ever consider doing it, or did you ever consider doing it because you wanted the attention that comes with it, the fame, the glory, things of that nature? Was it ever at any point that's something that crossed your mind that I want to do this here, but now that I'm seeing this, I also want that too?
Dude, I love you. You're like the best questionnaire I've ever had. I'm not just telling you the way you put it, because it's true. Like you're hitting the humanity of what it is that anyone does. So I could, if I were to say no, then I'd be lying.
Right.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, sure, we want recognition, but my recognition is purely, it's not to be glorified by strangers, that just to have them love me for whatever. That's not my motivation. I'm honest about that. But where I would love recognition is so I can continue to do what I do on an easier level, where it's just something at me with the plethora, like where I go, oh, yeah, I don't want to do this, I want to do this, and make it a lot more sustainable. That is the only reason why I would seek any of the attention. But it's not for the self-righteous part or anything like that.
So it's not for like superficial reasons.
No, yeah, not for superficial reasons at all. But on the professional reasons and to be, respected by my peers, absolutely, like 100%. And that's why I take it seriously. And the people that want it for superficial reasons, eventually, they fade away. You may not know who I am, but eventually I think people will. And it's only because of my work ethic and the connections I've made. I've burned no bridges. you talk to Lou or anyone, there's no one that can say that I'm difficult. There's no way. I show up, dude. I show up. I'm positive energy at all times. I'm focused. I've never really, I can't even say I've never flubbed a scene. I probably have once or twice, but I'm ready
You
to
never
go.
what? You never what?
Like really flub up a scene.
Oh, flub up.
Like
Okay,
I never
sorry.
like, like I'm just kind of like, I'm focused, ready to go. And
Oh,
most
okay.
people I work with are as well. There's just a few sometimes I feel like, oh, what are you doing? But that was earlier on. Now I put myself in position to work with really talented people that are, I hate the word talent. Talent is, oh, I don't
It's
know.
kind of a
It's
loose
so,
term for me because I think talent is only. I think you can only use the word talent when it's like, I don't know. I've never been a fan of the word. I was when I was a kid because like, wow, that guy is talented because I just took it for granted. But I think I look at it like a. Cause I know you're a big sports fan, especially for the Lakers, and I know you're a big Kobe Bryant fan. But there's,
man,
you know
you
what
do
I
your
think.
research. I want to hug you right now. That's great.
Well, I'm
That's
only
pretty good.
I'm pointing that out because, you know, people look at him and say he's talented, but I think they misinterpret what that means because I think for me it's more about Kobe Bryant put in the work, and when he put in the work, it paid off. You know, yes, there's a lot of connections that have to happen. There's a lot of luck. I get that, and I understand that's really where most of it comes into play for people to notice that. But when you find out what he does to maintain that at that high level, that's not talent. That's a whole different level of like drive or whatever the case you want it, whatever you want to call it, however you want to perceive that to be, however you perceive that to be, I meant to say. So when it comes to, you know, what people do for a living and that gets notarized for what, you know, what they're able to pull off and people admire them for that. But I think it's more about who really wants the most and who's going to do it right and do what they're doing right and provide the good reasons for why they're doing it. Because if I'm going to watch like you, I'm sure, for example, when you watch the Lakers play, you're watching because of one reason, because you love the sport, but you love Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant brings it all the time. So if I'm watching him play, because I know he's going to bring it all the time, everyone else has to keep up. But even Kobe
Even if
Bryant,
he's
when he
off,
first, right,
yeah, even when he had an off shooting night, he'd make up for it somewhere else. Like his
right,
passion was undeniable.
right. And I think some
Yeah.
people realize that I think a lot of people forget to take notice is that he wasn't very good when he first started in the NBA. When he first started, he was not that good. I mean, he was good, but not at the level that we all have come to know him at. Like, it took a while for him to really reach that level of notoriety. Well, I wouldn't say a while, but you know, he wasn't that
I mean,
impact.
he had the natural gifts. He
right.
wasn't given, like, he didn't even start his rookie year. That's what a lot of people, he barely played his rookie year.
Yeah.
And then it kind of came out where he had to fix some issues. You had to, you know, you want to be the man. You got to learn how to play well with others too. That's where he started to do better, you know, not halfway through his career, a little bit before that, but it's a learning process, man. Like,
but
dude,
that's what
the
I'm
way
getting
he,
at. No, you weren't. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were saying.
No, I was good. It's just it's not cutting off. It's just the ongoing subject, and I love Kobe. Kobe is a guy, like, honestly, what made me raise my bar and everything. Like, everyone that knows me knows it. When he died, my phone blew up as if he was my best friend. I never met Kobe. I've seen him play live many times. Went to high school with his wife. You know what I mean? But it's we have the same birthday, which is so crazy. So it's I only wear his only tennis shoes I'll wear that are like is Kobe's. Only one worth paying $200 for shoes for, I think. Just because his work ethic, though. I mean, the guy knew like 5 or 6 languages. Here's another thing, like, he didn't know how to play the piano, but his wife loved this song, so he learned how to play it for her just so he can play her song for their wedding. Like, the things that he did were not your typical man. Yeah. Like, he makes me want to keep learning. He's still, to this day, he's gone, but every day I talk about Kobe, like every single day, Kobe. Take away his basketball career. I remember seeing an interview like a month before he died. He was locally on the radio here. He lived like not that far from me, another city, but next door. He was talking about, man, he's like, because talking about basketball, he's like, we're talking about basketball. He's all talking about my daughter playing, Gianna. He's like, but if I'm only known as a basketball player in life, he's all, then I have failed. That's what he would say. And I'm like, I always remember that. This is like 3 weeks before he died. I'm just like, and I know him just from the person that he is. He embedded something in me early on. His dude is just ferocious. And he cared so much about just being what he can. It's not like being the best, but making everything the best. And if it doesn't work, it's obviously frustrating. You know, you put your life. So I'm like that with films. I just aspire to be, at least. You know what I mean? I'm nowhere. I can't even necessarily mention my name with Kobe, but it's I on set I aspire like Lewis. When we had lunch a couple weeks ago, man, like it's all we do is he's just like that on set. We both show up, we're ready to roll. Everybody, like I said, day labor. I haven't seen any cuts. I just got text today, great things. We were saying, man, you look great, blah, blah, blah. This nice things they were saying to me. But everybody there had the same work ethic. That's what was beautiful about it. I've never had a set, lost in the crowd. Work ethic was great. But I don't know. I'm excited for you to see Day Labor, man. If I get an early screener or whatever, go to New York. Where you at?
I'm in North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte.
North Carolina. All right. I've never been. One of the states I've never been to.
You were talking about Day Labor, and you're talking about where you're planning on releasing it here. I'm sure you guys are going to be doing it through festivals, if I'm not mistaken. Is that kind of the idea that you guys were going to go for?
I don't know if they're going to do festivals, but they're probably going to do
a straight distribution,
like an East Coast. Yeah, I mean, it'll eventually be, all probably. It's probably, if they do a theatrical release, it'll probably be like to make a deal. Like one of the producers just had a deal with Regency theater chain. I don't know what's out there. What's like there's Harkins, there's in Texas. They might do a theatrical run, small theatrical run for like a week or two. Then they put it out on, all the video demand like Amazon and all that stuff, VOD. So and that's the best routes. That's what a lot of people don't realize in the film industry is like studios to get into theaters. They have deals with these things and they're paying millions of dollars to get them in the theaters. The theaters aren't saying, hey, we're going to let you rent here. And like, no, you're renting it for a lot of money. That's the difference between a lot of smaller indie movies that can get it. The distributors are taking a shot, but the studios are the distributors on the other one. So that's why, dude, there's a movie I see all this time, big name actors I don't even hear of. So imagine an indie movie without big names trying to get someone to know about it. You're fighting up an uphill battle against, because there's just so much material right now. There's just so much to choose from. And I mean, for what was the name of the movie? I can't remember, but it has like Mel Gibson and stuff in it. I've never even heard of it.
Oh, there's quite a few then. Dragged Across Country. Is that the one you were thinking about?
No, it's like
Batman.
Him and
Walton
no, I saw
Goggins?
that one.
Okay.
No, it was like it's released in 2019. It was like,
with Sean Penn?
Yeah.
I know which one. He had a big beard.
Yeah, and I'm like, I love both actors. And I never even heard of the movie until today. Someone brought it up to my attention. I was like, what is this? I'm Sean Penn and Mel Gibson. I was like, what are we talking about? And I'm looking at it and I look it up. I was like, I've never, ever heard of it. Yeah. Never heard of it. And it's why I'm like, that just literally made me think about it's probably an indie movie, that they, most things are indie. Like a lot of people,
expensive indie movies, because there's some pretty well established. You're paying
those, and that's also a double-edged sword. Is all them get the money, but no money for marketing. And that's what makes me think that big names don't always matter. Like it doesn't. I mean, look at these TV shows on Amazon. I've never even seen any of these shows. Netflix, never seen any of these people before. But all that matters is if the studio is going to back you and put you in it, because that is the thing. You can get a no-name person to play Batman. Guess what? Batman's still going to do good in the box office. Is it as good without Christian Bale? Maybe not. Maybe so. Who knows? But it's still Batman's a star. The story's a star. You know what I mean? In horror films, the horror is the star. At the end of the day, like if you really look at it from the true entity of telling stories, no one cares at the end of the day who it is. I mean, you might draw I like this person, but
right.
It's not as a bigger, they're not taking home the money. I mean, the people taking home the money is the actor that you might have heard of. They took the $2 million check for a fucking week, and the rest of the movie, no one got paid, and the movie's tanking it's a common occurrence I've been hearing. So I would hate to one day if I get paid, $2 million for a fucking week, and the movie has no marketing dollars. I would be like, I'd be like, here's another million to put that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
something. I don't get it, but it's all over half the movies you see up on Amazon or Hulu or wherever they're at. The industry is what it is.
Well, so this actually, I'm curious because you brought this up now, because back in the early days, you could put in an actor's name and that would sell the film. The film obviously has to be good for it to carry the weight, but nowadays it's almost as if though it doesn't really matter who's in the movie. I mean, yes, it does help out when it's different now, because I always feel like you can make a superhero film and that will garner attention especially if it's a high property superhero. But if you throw in Will Smith's name on it, he's going to be in the movie. All of a sudden, that got more attention. Therefore, more investment, more people would probably be interested in checking it out, because I've never seen Will Smith in a superhero movie. But it also seems like as if though you got to put in a group of people together to get more attention, to sell the idea that these two actors never worked together before, and now that we're putting them together here, that's going to help tell the story, but also sell the movie too. So there's always I always feel like the marketing when it comes to films and promoting movies or television shows, I always feel like that strategy has changed and it needs to change. Or sorry, the strategy hasn't changed. It needs to change is what I meant to say.
It has to stay. It has to change because times change, technology changes. I talked to a 17-year-old kid 2 days ago, and he didn't know who Leonardo DiCaprio was. And I was thinking, wow. So he's not going to watch a movie with DiCaprio. Where the name game matters, where say like you have middle America, you got the baby boomers and everyone else that grew up watching movies, where you can control the technology because you had a TV and everything, you can browse the channels. Now it's, if you don't subscribe to Netflix, you don't get to see what's on Netflix. You don't have Disney Plus, you're out. I have Amazon, so I could see what's going on. You subscribe separately now. So you can have a huge show on Apple TV. And if you don't, they're putting money because there's a lot of subscribers, but most people are going to not, you're at a different demographic. So you got to promote, but it's also like, the point was like, you can have a name, these younger generations, they don't even care. It's so self-celebrity anyway. Everyone thinks they're a celebrity. Someone takes a photo with their booty on Instagram, you know what I mean? People buy their check marks, like, you know what I mean? Like I have so many people coming, like I could buy a check mark. I have them on Twitter, and dude, I got on the organic way. On Instagram, I refuse to fucking pay for a fucking check mark. And a lot of people are doing it, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it. But that's the name of the game now. It's you're paying for whatever. It's all, to me, I know all the bullshit, and so the young kids do too. So they're not going to be able to make a young kid subscribe for a particular actor. You know what I mean? They know the damn YouTube people more than they do actors nowadays.
Yeah.
Unless you do something huge. But the thing is, they don't even know the actor name. Like they'll talk about a movie and they're like, oh yeah, this thing, but they have no idea the actor's name. So the name value where someone's getting paid $20 million a year, I don't think it's happening anymore. Unless we're paying them, and maybe in the long run, if it's points in the back end revenue, which is how I think it should be anyway. If the movie's successful, and then be rewarded for it. But if it's not, don't have wasted money go for no reason. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's smarter business tactics.
I think actually I've actually never heard someone ever say that before. I think what you just pointed out was actually pretty important. Well, because I think one of the biggest problems that I have with the marketing when it comes to films and television is that it's so far behind. I've kind of touched upon it before, where they're stuck in that same formula. Because I remember I was talking to my son a while ago. There was the movie Free Guy that just came out recently, which we both saw. We loved it. We thought it was a fun movie.
Yeah, I heard it was good.
It's actually really good. I think you would probably enjoy it. But the point I'm getting at is that Patrick, who runs our channel, he was had told us ahead of time that, hey, I've got an interview with these YouTubers. Honestly, I don't even know who half these guys are. And I showed it to my daughter. My daughter flipped the fuck out because she knew exactly who these guys were. So I told my son, hey, so do you know these names of these YouTubers here that Patrick's talking about? He's like, fuck yeah, I do. I let my son cuss, as I cuss in front of him too. So I was like, okay, well, do you think that's going to help the channel, grow? He's like, yeah, you should get a lot of views from that. Cool. What I've come to realize is that you just never know. I mean, I already knew that beforehand, but now being a part of this engine, if you will, or this train rather, it's like it's a fickle thing. You just never know. You don't know what's going to be the one thing that's going to set it off for you, or what's, and if you anticipate something being the one thing that's going to hopefully push your push the opportunities for you to be able to try other things and do bigger and better things, if you will, it may never work out. Because even with the views that we've got from those interviews, although in comparison to our numbers, yeah, they were pretty good, but they were nowhere near the numbers that we were hoping it would be getting, because we thought that simply off the name alone would do enough to garner more attention, and it just never
Yeah,
really works
I,
that way.
it doesn't, and I don't believe any numbers I see because I know how it works. Not to throw people under the bus, but I mean, half the people you see with millions of followers, 80% of them are probably fucking bought. You know what I mean? Like I know about it. I see about it. I see the sponsors. I have them hit me up. These, and I don't want. I had no part of it. I had no part of it. I mean, without doing it though, it'll hinder me not doing it, because dude, it's all algorithms.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting into that algorithm, you can have 20,000 followers and 5 people see your shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all going on how person you interact with the most, type of shit.
Yeah.
It's that's why I wrote a whole thing on my like little poems or freestyles. I put one titled
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
and I spit up it because I just spit up a freestyle, just typing, I'm just flowing, and it's just all about that. I mean, the algorithms are causing errors. You know, I went on this whole fucking thing. I mean, people believe it. People are believing the hype.
Right.
Like, yeah, and I'm like, it's all horseshit, dude. People buy views, and I'm like, hey, I get it, you know, put it in, but I know the reality. Some of it's accurate, some of it's not.
Would you say more or less accurate?
Oh, it's definitely not accurate. Most in the favor of not being accurate. I just
Mhm.
know because I know people that are part of some big agencies, and when they're not part of those big agencies no more, dude, it's drastic difference. Is because the agency's funded. They all own it. You know what I mean? It's all money. It's all about the money. What's flowing through, who's putting what, who's doing, you know, whatever it is. I know this particular actor that I don't even know if I want to call him an actor. He's a rich guy, self-made. He had a fund, you know, he's got his own whatever inheritance money where he nice guy, but he doesn't get hired anywhere else. So he had to hire himself, which I respect. I respect his work ethic, but he hired his publicist to get him his blue check mark. He likes that. I don't like the superficial side, because he asked me how to get mine because he was on my Twitter, and I said, dude, I don't know. I just woke up. It was literally there. I don't know what happened. I thought when they told me I was verified on Twitter, which I can't even get my Twitter account the last 6 months. I'm blocked. I can't get in because of my new cell phone number, and it like is like a triple authentication. I can't even get my own shit. But I thought I was it said verified. I thought I did something wrong. I was like, what is this verification? Like, what is this? Like, I thought it was like a scam. I didn't know idea what it was. And then but then he found out, you know, through publicists and whatever, and I know many people now, they're paying for it. You pay enough money to the right people, that's how it works. I mean, not everybody. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying for certain people, you might see someone with a blue check mark. How the fuck this guy? Who is this person? Maybe is some real shit. I'm telling you, dude. I know it. Don't believe all the hype with things. Watch the content. Watch who they are. Like, you seem to be very intuitive with not just what meets the eye, because your questions are very in depth, and they're multi-layered. So I'm sure you can see through all the BS too. It's all social media. I mean, but the problem is it's a necessary evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's unfortunate because you know, I remember, I forgot, oh, it was a comedian, Godfrey. He was talking about what was it, where he was like, you know, the game has changed for everything, you know, acting, whatever the case may be. But he was talking about comedy specifically, and he was saying that so, you know, a comedian who can be really good at what they do, have been in the industry for years, and let's say they have their own social media accounts, and they go to some club, some really top level club, and the owner probably doesn't know who they are, and they say, oh, hey, I want to book a gig here. Great. Oh, so you're a comedian. Yeah. Oh, how long you been doing it? I've been doing it for 20 some years. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So do you have a social media account? Yeah, I do. How many followers do you have? That's the first thing they're gonna ask. How many followers do you have? Oh, right now I've got 12,000. How long you been doing this here for social media? I don't know, 6 months. And you got the 12,000 now? I was like, yeah, because I've got some people who know me and so on. Okay, great. All right, well, we may book you, but it won't be for whatever. Someone else who's a YouTuber who's got like 50 million followers can come in and say, hey, I want to book a show here. We got this thing that we want to do. How many followers you got in your social media account? 50. We'll start tonight.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not even real. Those are the
Right.
ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know a few, trust me. I know a few that are in the multi-million range, and it's not real. Like,
Yeah.
he laughs at it. It's just, and I refuse to be part of that train. I don't mind promoting or whatever. I mean, I don't even like social media per se, but it's
I know.
necessary.
I heard you say that.
I just kind of do my own thing. Like, the only person that can get away with it is Keanu Reeves. He's constantly talked about and he's adored, and he's probably the most popular person on the internet. Almost, and doesn't have any social media. So he's like the ultimate way of life to be, the goal in life. Scoot McNairy doesn't have a social media either. So it's, and he's a talented guy. I love Scoot McNairy. I think he's a guy that you're going to see a lot of good stuff from. You watch the show, that Godless miniseries on Netflix.
That's with him and what's his name?
Jeff Daniels.
And Jack O'Connell is in that too. Am I right?
Yeah. And dude, a lot of people are in that, but he's like one of the main people telling that side of the story with the him and Jeff Daniels. I mean, if you click on Netflix, Scoot McNairy's face is who you see. Like, when you scroll around on Godless, it's like him and the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I didn't even know he was going to be in it. I was just like, man, but he's a phenomenal actor, phenomenal guy, rides a motorcycle like no one's fucking business. I was riding with him a year ago now when we last rode on motorcycles, and dude, the guy doesn't even need a clutch cable, and he's riding 100 on the freeway with modular helmet, smoking a cigarette. I'm like, this guy's gangster, man. Like, I thought for sure like he was gonna take it easy because he was driving to the mechanic to go get his clutch fixed, because he was like, oh, we'll go real quick. I was like, oh, I'm like, I thought he was gonna take it easy. Dude, I'm going 100 to keep up with him, and this is like in and out of traffic, and he's just so confident. He's got his very high skill level on a motorcycle.
You think like to the point where he can do professional racing? Is that how good of a level he is?
He would probably say no, but I would say yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of track time. He's grew up riding. You can't, when you don't have a clutch cable, you can't stop your bike. It's going to stall. So he had to keep going. So when we exit the freeway, I mean, you have a green light or not, or what are you going to do? You know what I mean? We had a stop sign. He went around it, safely, of course. I mean, everything he did was pretty safe.
So it sounds like he's done this more than one occasion. It sounds like to me.
Oh, it was like not even like a sweat in his life,
With the way things are going on right now in the industry, especially with technology evolving, because that's always been the one thing that has always contributed to the success of a lot of people. People that would have never been famous are now famous by doing some of the most simplest things that people would have thought as a joke, and now all of a sudden are getting known for that sort of stuff, and then have had a career as a result of that. Whereas, over 15, 20 years ago, that would have never been the case because, the technology hasn't evolved to where it is now. We have YouTube, we have Zoom calls, we have all these different ways of reaching out to people. And I always wondered that as time goes by, do you think that people will be able to take things to another level in terms of like how things are put together as far as films are concerned, as far as television is concerned? The one thing that I've come to learn that when they were doing the reshoots for Justice League, I remember what's his name, Zack Snyder was saying that with Ezra Miller, who played the Flash, he had to be in one particular scene that was included in the extended cut that was released on HBO Max, but it was all done through Zoom calls. So he had the guys do everything on that particular set that he was shooting on, and he was able to direct from there. I don't think it's the most. It could be a useful tool, but I don't think it's a tool that I think would be considered as a reliable thing to depend on under as a long-term thing. But because of that
it's possible. It's possible.
Right, but I'm just saying that, like, the way things have changed, where Zack Snyder can literally be on a Zoom call and say, okay, so set the camera up over here. Okay, Ezra, do this and shoot that, blah, blah, blah. And then he was able to take that shot and then put it into the film. Like, to me, that was like, holy shit, this has changed everything. I mean, I'm sure this has been done before, but hearing that story, I was like, wow, the industry has evolved where the director doesn't have to be at the same place at the same time with the actors and get the film done and add the scene onto the film in the final product. So, when I'm hearing these stories, I always wondered how people who are in the industry, if they have some insight or have some ideas of what could possibly change along the way that could really drastically change the industry altogether when it comes to filmmaking. Because, filmmaking, you have to be in the moment. But hearing stories like that, I always wonder, is that a possibility where you don't have to be there to still be in the moment?
Sometimes, and speaking of which, I mean, two things pop in my mind. During this pandemic, Mark Hansen, who's in Daylight's In,
Yeah,
he
I know he is.
got the hat and the beard and all that.
Mm-hmm.
He reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I just want to be creative during this pandemic. I want to create this movie. Maybe I could give you this little scene, a scenario. You can shoot something and send it to me on your phone." I said, "Fuck it, send me whatever." I'll go, I'll ride my motorcycle. Let me do something on my motorcycle. So I shot, did some little thing like that and sent it to him. I still don't know what's happening with it. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
that is the situation. But I also have heard, I could be wrong, but I've heard that Spielberg directed a whole movie via satellite. Back, I think it was Munich or something like that, a movie. So maybe you can Google it. But I heard he directed a movie because he was never on set, directed a movie.
Oh, it could have been me because he was definitely on set for that movie.
It was in somewhere around that time frame. Maybe it was somewhere, but he apparently directed a movie he wasn't on set for,
You actually may be right.
or some of it. And this was before even. This was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Mm.
So I don't know, but I've heard it numerous times. I was like, wow. So I think technology nowadays, I mean, and we know just as our generation and what's happened from where the past was and where we are now, to never think like nothing's possible. Because I mean, how much greater can things get with technology? Shit, maybe this is just the beginning. Who knows? But I definitely see like directing films from afar, or at least certain things due to locations, or someone has to be here or there. I see that being a pretty common thing. I mean, half auditions are not even in person anymore. You send in a tape, but the only thing is we're not getting direction. That's the problem with those self-tape.
Do you think is that a detriment to the process, or does it work in your favor at times?
It'd be cool to get direction if they just to show something different, because they're only going to give you one take to send off your own choice, and maybe we're not our best critic. So, but I think there's something about when you walk into an audition room and you have that, you feel people's energy. They can see a vibe. That is what lacks about the self tapes. And the self tape, how does the cast record judge, like, how hard was it for this guy to get, or how many takes did he get to here? You know what I mean? Like how off. That is what they're also not able to judge. So they're in a tough position as well. Both, actor and casting directors and producers who are watching it. But I prefer the in person, like maybe a quick video thing, but take it to the, in person.
I see.
Is much better. You feel the energy, the vibe, everything.
But do you like the casting, the audition process? Do you like going through that as well?
Yeah. That's one thing. If I have a love-hate relationship, it's that one. If there is one thing, but I haven't had them in a while. So, because it's all been self-tape and the COVID thing. But I enjoy when you go in there and you're ready. You show, because that's where you can show you're prepared. Self-tape, you can be prepared, but like I said, what was your preparation? How long did it take to get you to that moment? You know what I mean? You go in the audition room, they know you're sitting out there waiting, and then you introduce yourself, and then from that moment, you show what you develop with the character in a very short period of time. To me, that is what's magical, and you don't get to show that with the self-tape, and it takes away some magic for sure.
Okay, well, I've heard some people who, when they talk about the audition process, that it could be a rather it could be two things I've heard the most. It could be that the people that are behind the desk or whatever they're sitting on be very lifeless in the process, through the whole audition process. Others a little more engaging, a little more involved. Like, hey, listen, try this. Or, we like what you did here, but can you try this instead over here? Or read this line instead like this. And obviously they want more of that. So they have an idea of what they're going to be working with and what they're working towards. But in the moment where they have someone who's sitting there that's like, all right, run the lines, and then they're kind of, dismissive, if you will. I don't know how you handle that, how you go about that whole process, and what your experiences have been mostly like during those auditions that you have with someone in the room. Like what's always been your experience like in that particular area?
In my earlier days when I wasn't the best auditioner, sometimes I get where I'm just focused. Maybe it's nerves that get you, and you get in the room, it's like not what you're expecting. You get used to that. You prepare for the unexpected. You prepare for feeding off of nothing. So when you get something engaged, that just helps. So when you get to the point when you're prepared, it doesn't really matter. You can do a scene with no one saying the lines back. I could skip your lines. You don't have to say them, and I'll still say it. I'll feed off of nothing. Daylight's in, that scene where I talk, I'm listening, and I'm like, so let me get this straight. I said the whole thing, like, the Sam's playing, blah, blah, blah. I cleared the room. When it was my take, I knew where everyone was because it was so fucking hot. For everyone else, we're sweat. That was real sweat. That was we didn't know glycerin. It was 110 degrees on the no AC abandoned building courthouse. That's where Lee Harvey Oswald got shot. You know what I mean? Like in that building. I cleared the room, but I don't need people. I mean, that was a quick monologue. So that's not that good of a example, but there could be a scene where I booked a role. I forgot what role was it, but there's engaging where they're saying something back after respond. I had no one to read with. So I sent in a tape where I'm just like talking, and I react to their what I knew that they were going to say. So imagine if I'm on set and I get some great one to feed off of. That's just going to change the dynamic. If you're prepared, you don't need anyone but yourself at the end of the day. So I just still prefer the casting office because they get to see that. They can't see it from the audition tape. I don't know. And some people, I'm not the best auditioner. Like I remember seeing an interview with Tim Roth, and he said if he ever had to audition for anything, he would never get the role. Because he's an amazing actor. Some people just it's an art form, man. Auditions. It's a thing that some people are good at, but they're not good on set. I've seen that too. It's really weird.
Really?
It's really weird. Yeah, I've heard about it. Know about a couple people. They're pretty good, but they're set on that one thing and they cannot change it. If you try to change it, it's like, what is this? It's really odd. As an actor, you need to be able to go, you're prepared, but you're prepared to dance. You know what I mean? They want to tango or they're going to two-step. What are we going to do here? And but you're still the same character. And that's what matters. The director might, hey, let's do it. Let's give it this way. We're going to shoot. And just being on set, dude, it's another organic feeling. So everyone's different, but I still prefer the in-person, but technology I love. Remember we mentioned earlier, like right now we get to interact. If I couldn't drive, you're not going to come here. I'm not going to North Carolina to sit down, if maybe someday that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But that technology is great. And that watching that Twitch thing, watching the movies live with an audience, it was a win-win for everyone. They enjoyed it. It's a win. It promotes the film. I got to talk to some people that were, and interested in me and what I was doing, and it was just I love it. I think that's where technology is great. And without social media, I probably wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity. So that's the necessary, the double-edged sword with that one.
Yeah. I think how things have changed here for everybody. I think with technology is one of the biggest tools that I think we all have taken for granted. At least I know I have at times, but it's also one of the biggest things that I've come to appreciate as well too, given these circumstances. Because obviously, as you mentioned before, I'm not going to fly out to LA. Hey, let's go and interview for 2 hours and then come on back. It's kind of
if we had the budget for it, that'd be cool. It's flying in the time frame.
All right. Well, so in closing with this here, then, I want to say that When I first had reached out to you about doing this, there was a part of me that was not sure how it would go, and I don't mean that in a negative light. I really mean that I just wasn't sure how it's going to go, because a lot of times I like to do my research not to really get a feel for the person, because I said to you before, when we were starting this year, that I like to be very cognizant about what's been asked about the person, not to throw shit at anybody else that's done this here, but it's hard to really kind of get a feel for a person when the same questions being asked over and over and over again, and the same
Yeah.
answers are being given over and over and over again. So when I was listening to the interviews, and there's one, I'm not gonna say which one it is, maybe I will off air, but I was like, I gotta stop, because this is getting fucking redundant. It's getting boring. So it was hard for me to really get a feel of like how the conversation would go. And to my genuine surprise, it went way better than I anticipated, because I felt like as I was getting to talk with you further, mainly through our interactions on social media, how you responded back to me, how I responded back to you, like I got, okay, I think this is going to go pretty good. But once we started getting into the conversation, I started to realize that you are a lot more open than I had gotten from the previous interviews that you've shared before, that you've done in the past, where it's pretty steady. So I got to see a big wavelength of your reaction through the entirety of the interview, which is what I really wanted to get. You had mentioned something before where I felt like I completely get where you're coming from, and I think that's where I felt like you and I had connected very well in the conversation, which was that they don't know who I am when they're on the set, but when they leave, they will know who I am. That's the same mindset that I have whenever I am trying to start a conversation with anybody on the show. And I'm not saying it for superficial reasons. I'm not saying it for like, to kind of bolster myself. I'm not doing that. But the reason I carry that mindset, which is why I really appreciate what you said, was because I understood where you're coming from. And I always feel like that what I wanted the people to walk away from was that someone took the time to really dig in the work, do the research, I meant to say, and really pull out all the stops to make sure that, okay, they're not asking the same question. They're not bringing up the same thing over and over again. And if they are, they're doing it from this angle, because now I can give a different perspective. And that's what I want. Because I think a lot of the questions that were asked before with many actors that, tell me about how you felt about this. Yeah, that's fine. But how about asking in that avenue?
There's sometimes it's like a broken record. I'm like, okay. This was more engaging for sure.
The only downside about this is that we're not face to face, but the fact that I think that we've gotten along very well in the conversation, it shows that you and I have a lot more in common as far as how we approach things than we tend to realize. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing this stuff. I love this long form of conversation, because that's where I think you get to learn more about the person, rather than tell me about your day on the set when you worked on Brad Dourif, because he's a fantastic actor. What was it like working with him? So it's and I understand why people do that. I get that, but that's what I'm saying. The marketing is so far behind that people are still stuck with that approach, and I hate that. And I've done it before too. I'm not going to deny that I have done it before. But then the more I get into it, I was like, oh, I got to lose this crap. So
you'll reflect on things you've done and try to get better and grow. That's what I try to do. I just try to grow, man. It's all about growth. If I take on a role, one of the things on my checklist is one of my personal checklists is, will I grow as a human being after this role? And I could tell, and I'm telling you every time, that's what it's about to me. Doing interviews, I get hit up all the time for certain people. I'm like, I don't know, but you had a connection with Lewis and you seem chill. I'm like, all right, I can talk to this guy. So and I was to be honest, I was worried about having the same answers, because I feel like I'm a broken record. I'm like, I want to answer everything as organically as I can. I really got to with you. Honestly, it was like I was like, okay, because you had it. They're multi-layered questions, and I was like, okay, and I like that as an actor, dude. It's got to be layered. I'm like, let's layer out the scenes. Let's get depth of the character. It made it very authentic and enjoyable. So thank you for having me on here.
No, and it's the honor was mine, because like I said before, I try to look for the underdog, if you will, right? I love
That's me.
Right. So I look for the underdog. Yes, don't get me wrong. I would love to interview some of my favorite actors in the world. I would love to, but there was always a part of me that wonders that is it going to be more or less the PR actor, the motive they're going to be getting. I don't want that. I look for the underdogs because what I would love to see happen is that, you have come to a part in your life where you are getting some more work, things are starting to come together, and then there's that period where you are successful, where you've gotten more notoriety for the fact that to be able to work on other projects that where you say it's going to be easier for you to get stuff to get the job done.
Yeah.
And I would love to be in that point in your career where it's like, I've talked to that guy and I saw that a mile away when I spoke with them. I believe that after I saw Monumental, like that like I told you before, I saw that moment in the film where you were with your mother, and I was like, wow, this is like amazing. I'm pretty good at detecting a really good actor beforehand when I see certain things that they work on. But Monumental was a film that made me realize that, okay, Gary Kearns, I always forget, is it Carnes or Kearns? I figure I mess that up every time.
Honestly, I don't even know. I heard it so many. I heard it so many different ways. I would guess it's Cairns, or you can say it with no syllable, or just one syllable, or two. Cairns or Cairns.
Cairns. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy Cairns then. So when I saw that scene, I was like, this guy's a fucking good actor. It's just a matter of time with the right role, the right project, under the right circumstances, that people will take notice of what you're capable of doing. And that excites me a great deal for me to see that in an actor who has a great potential that probably people that you've already known, other people have worked with you already knew, but no, not everyone else has picked up on. And it's just a matter of time that something will come along the way that I think that people will notice that and be like, oh shit, let's call Gary now to hire for this part now. And
That's what happened with day labor so far. They call me, but that's the reason why I wrote that for Monumentals, because I get casted for certain roles.
Yeah.
Monumental I wrote because I wanted to play someone that people can relate to, because he's an everyday blue collar dude, but he's real. And that was the key, to play something, those subtleties, man. And then he has his big moments, but the subtleties are I wanted as authentic as possible, and why it was worth the journey to shoot it and use my own money to pretty much shoot it, and which we shot it for so little, dude. It's like unbelievable. And that's why it's a successful project, because fuck, me and Luke can watch this and go, wow, it feels like a dream. Like,
yeah,
not that it's this super successful thing type dream, but it's a dream because it felt like a dream. Looking back, like, we actually did this. We're fucking crazy. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So that Luke's another amazing person you should talk. I mean, Luke Albright, one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Yeah.
He's amazing. So, but yeah, I appreciate your words, man.
No, I appreciate your time. Yeah, I appreciate your time here. And I cannot give you enough praises here, because honestly, this is like, this is one of the reasons why I said before why I do this here, because I want to discover the hidden gems out there. And then I want to be reaching a level of success that as I discovered them, guys, look back at, you should check out this guy, check out this band, check out this comic. These guys are amazing. None of you guys ever heard of them, but they're killing it. Look at them. And then I hope with that notoriety, that would bring more awareness, whether it works or not, one can.
It's just what it takes. Word of mouth, man. Yeah. That's at the end of the day, as you know, people promoting your show and whoever you're promoting. I mean, it's word of mouth, and that goes a long way, because it's coming from a real voice, not some marketing ad that you're forced to see. Right. So I appreciate it.
No, I think, tell you, go on.
Well, I was gonna say, since you seem like you appreciate like the making of the process. Mm-hmm. It's not available to stream anywhere, but the making of Monumental, it's a 40-minute like making of document. It's so well put together. It's actually, I think you have to get the DVD or Blu-ray or something, but it's worth watching. If you like, you'll see it, the way it's cut together. You have Brad Dourif being interviewed and be showing movies as he's talking about the scenes and what he's talking about, and then same with me.
You said Monumental. You talking about Malignant?
I mean, Malignant. Yeah, the making of that dude. It's worth 40 minutes. I think you'll find it enjoyable. Mark Savage is interviewing Brad Dourif, who's the director of Purgatory Road. That's how I met Mark, is on that set, and we became buddies. But it's worth watching. I meant to say it a while ago, because I think you would, being a movie buff, you would appreciate the making of Malignant very much.
Right.
It's worth watching.
I'll definitely look into that. Definitely want to get a chance. But yeah, man, look, I can't give you enough praises here, because you have been nothing short of amazing in this interview. Like, really, I was hoping for a good conversation, but instead I got a really wonderful, passionate, and fantastic conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I appreciate you listening to my ramble when I was kind of going off on a tangent, certain things. So thanks for
No,
your
I love
patience
it,
on
dude.
that.
It's a conversation between two people. So
Yeah.
part of that is listening. So I'm all for listening. It's you have a lot to say. You're very intelligent. You know what you're talking about. You did your research. Like, you made me laugh a couple of times. Like, okay, you're not only doing research on me, you did research on interviews that I've done and knew that. Like that, I don't think anyone I've ever interviewed has watched another interview of mine. Maybe they watched partly right before one that I did recently, like one of the ones that this lady that interviewed me. But you were definitely multi-layered, and that says a lot about a human being. Like, you care about what you're doing, because you're not just doing what's bare minimum. So.
Well, I appreciate
Cheers.
that. So I think so. I thank you for noticing that too. It actually does mean a lot. But listen, I'll definitely reach out to you again. But and what I'll also be doing too is that I'll make sure to post all the social media links in the description down below for everyone to follow you on there and check you out and see what you're coming up down the pipeline, because I know you are working on some projects that I'm really curious about, especially with a day labor that you had mentioned before. Now that you've brought some insight about what to be expecting, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that film. And so I'll do my absolute best to look out for your work, do my absolute best to try to promote it as well too. And I mean, is there's anything else that you want to close off with that we probably touched upon earlier that you want to highlight before we sign off?
Yeah, that's what my Malignant mention was for the behind the scenes is really well made. It's like, I mean, so that, but I got it.
Cool, man.
And that's been enjoyable, man. I want to give you a big hug right now, but you're so far away.
So we'll give each other some virtual hugs about that.
Exactly. Yeah, big virtual hug.
All right, cool, man. Well,